I am ready to go live. Yeah, I am ready to go live.
Well, that's good because we're live. TikTok, time to rock, everyone.
TikTok.
Good evening, good morning, good afternoon to everyone who's watching from all over the world. It's your friendly neighborhood philosopher here, D. Wood. With me now is the prophet of all apostates everywhere,
Albert
AP.
Paul.
Albert Paul! Hey, AP.
Yes.
You heard of this Douglas Murray guy?
I heard of him. I heard of him very, very much. I also call him Douglas Furry. I wanted to get a dog and call it Douglas Furry. I was thinking of that. Yeah.
That'd be awesome.
Yeah, or I was thinking of getting another dog and calling him Richard Parkins or something like that. I don't know,
Richard Parkins. Abu Barker. Go with Abu Barker.
Yeah.
People are noticing AP is on time for once. Isn't that weird? What's crazy is you were 8 minutes early. You were 8 minutes early. We're sitting here. Yeah, that was weird. I didn't know what to do.
That's how I roll, man. I'm always on time.
Wait, who's this? Carl here says AP is late again. No, he wasn't. But Free Constantinople, yes, he wasn't late at all. He was 8 minutes early.
I was 8 minutes earlier.
Yeah, he called. I figured because normally, I send him the thing and then it gets to like 7:59 and then I start typing zzz, just a bunch of Z's into text to him, and then like another 5 minutes will go by and then I'll just do the sleeping emoji, and then all of a sudden he'll call and I'll go, "What the heck? What is wrong with you?" And anyway. He accidentally called in 8 minutes early today because he didn't know what time it was.
Yeah, I didn't mean to. I just accidentally. I was going to do something else, and then I did this on accident. Yeah. I don't know.
And Elgato says, just wondering if Mecca ever ends underwater. Do Muslims need to dive there, or if it is moved under tectonic plates, do they need to dig down to it? Don't know. I don't think it'll end up underwater. It's in a pretty arid area. All right, so we're going to be checking out. You haven't watched this, right? You haven't seen this?
I haven't seen it. I love Douglas Murray. I think he's amazing. I also love Triggernometry. Those guys are very funny. And Konstantin Kisin is just. I think he's. I noticed over the last year he's like one of the most balanced, rational, reasonable commentators out there right now. Much respect for all parties involved here, but I haven't watched the video. No.
And I think Constantine, and I'm more familiar with Constantine. I forget what his sidekick's name is.
I forget that too. But
yeah, his co-host.
I think it's Francis. Francis might be. Yeah.
But yeah, they were both comedians, I think, before jumping into podcasts. And so notice you got the parallel there with Joe Rogan, but it makes sense why comedians who decide to do podcasts would do really well. They can keep keep it a bit entertaining and so on. But yeah, hey, I saw you tweet something earlier about this. It says, I don't know what you guys were talking about, but it says, have you seen the video of Candace thinking Israel purposely segregates Muslims? It's on Twitter. I saw you tweet earlier. You said Candace once again talking about something she doesn't know anything about or something like that. What was that?
She is just such an embarrassment. So she was having a conversation with somebody, and she's been trying to.
Are you saying that because she's a woman or black or conservative? Which
one? Both. Yeah, all three. So no, she was having a conversation with somebody. I don't know who that is, and recently she's trying to take this anti-Israel, pro-Palestine position. I guess because it mixes well with the whole Andrew Tate crowd and all of that nonsense. Anyway, but she was talking about. She said, "Well, when you walk through Jerusalem, and you see that there is a Muslim quarter." And that's where Muslims are allowed to live. That doesn't really sound like freedom to me. And then the guest said,
"Has she actually been there? Because that's not how it is."
I don't know what I don't know how she got that idea. But the guest then awkwardly says, "Well, I don't think it's about them being allowed to only live there. It's just that, that they were dominant there, which is why it's now known like that. Just like." And then he mentions a parallel to that, like Chinatown, for
Yeah.
example. That doesn't mean that,
Well,
that Chinese people can only live there.
I don't understand why Chinese people can only live in Chinatown. Why can't they walk out of Chinatown if they want?
I don't know why she's trying to talk about these things without knowing anything about him. It's just so embarrassing. And
Hello, Candace. This is Andrew Tate. Could you do me a solid here and throw Israel under the bus?
yeah,
Sure, Andrew.
Did you know they have a Muslim quarter?
Oh no, sorry, I meant, hey, Candace. If you throw Israel under the bus right now, I'll start calling you Candace instead of Candace. Anyway. We got Bobo here with Free Liberland. Yeah, I just tweeted an hour ago or something about Pakistan.
Free Kurdistan, by the way.
Yeah, notice there's all these situations that are like parallel. So you had the British, just as the British controlled Palestine, the British controlled India. And then when they're deciding, hey, we're getting out of here, then it was what sort of dividing lines are we going to put here? And the reasoning was, oh, well, this area that we control over here is predominantly Muslim, and this area over here is predominantly Hindu. So we don't want a majority Muslim population controlled by Hindus. We don't want a Hindu majority population controlled by Muslims. So we're going to divide it up accordingly. It was very similar reasoning to what they did in the British Mandate of Palestine, where, okay, we can't have all these Jews under the controls of people who wants to wipe them out and so on. So we're going to divide it up. And then the Arab side said, no, we're not accepting that. And then there was a war fought over it. But notice, I mean, this means that Pakistan is occupied India. Pakistan is occupied territory, following the exact same reasoning that's been laid down. Hindus have a right to return and take that land over, completely subjugate it, do whatever they want, and take it back under control of India, following the same reasoning that we're hearing from the free Palestine. So free Pakistan, ladies and gentlemen.
Free Kurdistan. Free Pakistan. All
right, so we're going to go ahead and jump into this clip. I don't know how much we'll get to, but this is a pretty. My goodness, I've seen clips of Douglas Murray over the years. I've never sat down and watched like an entire long interview with him, but this was brilliant. And I encourage everyone to watch whatever we don't go through here, because it's pretty good.
Oh, hey, I want to say something quickly. I just opened my Twitter right before we went live, and then I saw a notification from Daniel Kikichu, and apparently he took it a little bit. He didn't like my response to him yesterday, so he challenged me to a debate.
Wait, which response?
My response to him yesterday, when he said that those who condemn October 7 are traitors to Islam and only bloodthirsty Zionists do that, and I just...
Wait, hold on. Didn't Mohammed Hijab condemn Hamas?
Yeah, kind of.
Yeah, he did on the Piers Morgan thing. He said, I condemn anyone who kills innocent civilians, and so they killed civilians, so...
Yeah. So that means that Mohammed Hijab is a traitor to Islam.
A traitor, and he's a bloodthirsty Zionist, according to Daniel Hakikachu. Dawa Wars, ladies and gentlemen. Dawa Wars. But go ahead. What did you say?
Yeah. He just challenged me to a debate out of nowhere, which is very weird, because he's supposed to debate me like years ago. He was supposed to debate me on, is Islam true or not? And he didn't. He never
want to touch that one.
He never agreed to it. He got out of it somehow. And now he challenges me to have a debate with him this Friday on Zionism. But the issue is, I'm reading his tweet here, and his suggested topic is Islam versus Judaism. Which religion is to blame for the Israel-Palestine war? What kind of a topic is this?
Yeah. Well, I mean, I guess you could defend the position that Islam is to blame and just quote all the sources on how.
What kind of a dumb topic is this? Why would you debate this with me?
Yeah, If I were you, I would say, hey, I thought we were going to debate whether Islam is true. So first do that, and then you can ask about the next debate. Sick of these guys. Just sick of these guys. I challenge you to this. Okay. No. Now I challenge you to this. Okay. Yeah. And they just keep changing the challenge. Yeah. Anyway. All right. Let's go ahead and get into some triggernometry.
Douglas, you're back for the I don't know which time, but we've had you on many times. And I put it to you that there's good news and bad news. The good news is that you were right. The bad news is that you were right. What have you made of the last 3 weeks?
Well, I suppose like all of us, it's a mixture of things. First shock, then horror, then shock again, then horror, then disappointment, and then rage, probably, in roughly that order. Horror at what happened in Israel, shock like everyone, this was able to happen. Horror at the details of what happened, shock then at the response on the streets of cities like the one we're sitting in London. The fact that there were so many people who didn't even give it a day before they turned out on the streets of my city.
Sounds about right.
Supporting the people who'd done this act of terror.
Yeah, that was, gosh, I should have pulled up some of the clips of all the people celebrating. Guys, keep in mind, it's you saw the rallies afterwards that were all the, free Palestine and from the river to the sea and so on. But there were all those celebrations that were just responses to terrorist attack. Once news came out that men, women, and children had all been massacred and families had been massacred and all this information came out and there were just absolute celebrations and so on. So very, very creepy stuff. And of course, he's in the UK, so he's sitting there watching the celebrations. Pretty fun, pretty fun to do.
Then in the weeks since, increasing rage. Rage that I have to share a country with these people.
And
what are you grinning at, AP? I'm just saying you haven't seen it, but he's kind of over and over again. I don't want to live in, I don't want to live here with them. I don't want to live here with people who celebrate this. I don't want to live with a bunch of people who want to wipe out Israel. I don't want to live here with them. Why do I have to live here with them?
He's very, very based, as the wee lads would say.
Makes me almost wish I were gay so that I could get away with saying more, right? If I were him, anything, look, if I were black, anything anyone said to me, I would say, what? Because I'm black? And if I were gay, anything anyone said to me, are you saying that because I'm gay? I would just go to it every single time.
That's a very weird thing to say, but yeah, okay.
Hey, do any of the British people who are watching know the different, well, I guess it's the wrong time of day for them. They're asleep by now. All tuckered out on fish and chips over there. But I was wondering what these different guys' accents are right now, because I don't know. I always zero in on people's different accents and stuff. Like Britain seems small to me. I don't know why they have all these different accents, but you've got you've got the he's more along the lines of like the Richard Dawkins scholarly accent, and then of course you know. That's crazy. You can apparently go down the road and then all of a sudden you got the people, hey, governor, I'm going to bloody whack myself, governor. And they sound like idiots. And then, you've got the like the Ali Dawa, because I was going down to the store. And they sound like dopes and stuff. But anyway, you got all these different accents. And then the guy in the middle right there, whatever his name is, he's not quite the Cockney, but he could have talked like this. Anyway, I don't know what everyone is.
I think the Alidawa type, the very broken English accent that just sounds very weird. I think they call it chav or something in Britain.
People are answering. Someone said his accent is south of England, London way. You talk about Douglas Murray there, or the other guy? Southern, but people are saying Southern British. Okay, so this is Southern British stuff.
Southern. It is Southern then.
Someone said Douglas Murray has a standard RP upper class London accent. Jam Yang says, "Is it because I was black?" that was his video with Rooney on that show when he said he's a racialist, and he got up to walk out and he goes, "Is it because I was black?" That was Ali G. All right, let's go through some more.
Solid.
I think the thing that we've all had to come to terms with is how some people have just been so open about supporting an extremist Islamist terrorist group and also refusing to acknowledge it as such.
Well, before you answer,
You see what I'm saying, though? That dude sounds completely different. Like, not, yeah. Anyway, let me back up slightly.
I think the thing that we've all had to come to terms with is how some people have just been so open about supporting an extremist Islamist terrorist group and also refusing to acknowledge it as such.
well, before you answer, Douglas, one of the things that I've noticed in comments is people like, well, these are pro-Palestine marches. And I think we have to be clear that what we're talking about is in the first 2 days prior to Israel responding in any way, there were people celebrating.
Yeah, but the bodies of the dead hadn't even been found. They were still warm in some cases. Some people were still in the process of being massacred. And even as that was still going on, people were already out in the streets of cities like London protesting against Israel. And that was what it was.
Hold on one second. Who is this? This is either a complete troll or it's Nadir himself. But Apologetics Roadshow. Why don't you? And it's from the name is I find peace and solace in Islam. Why don't you ever debate Nadir Ahmed? Why do you keep running away from him? He refuted you in many debates. Wait, if he refuted me in many debates, how do I not ever debate him?
That's clearly Nader Ahmed himself here. Nobody speaks like that, and nobody actually thinks that Nader Ahmed is a good debater. So
yeah, I've never met someone who thinks Nadir Ahmed is a good. In fact, Nadir is who you debate when you're just totally bored and you have no one else to debate. But hey, one time we were debating on whether Islam is a religion of peace or something like that, and we debated it in a church. And the pastor came up to me afterwards and he said, "Look, man, you got to be careful because." You know, at first I was like, oh, yeah, David's destroying him. But then you made me start feeling bad for Nadir. And by the end, it was like I'm thinking like it's like you're up there clubbing a baby seal. And it's just so you're getting sympathy on his side. I'm like, anyway. All right. Bye, Nadir. Go make another fake account, Nadir. Oh, boy. Let's see. Francis here says, recording children crying, using a child to push their victimhood is beyond sickening. Hope you two are well. God bless you all. And yes, get a pen pal, eh? Notice this entire conflict could have been avoided if Sunni Muslims had just gotten Shia pen pals and then Christian pen pals and then Jewish pen pals.
People
Problem solved. No, they don't listen. They don't listen to Jordan Peterson. I wonder why. All right, here we go.
It was straight away a protest against Israel. And, you know, look, there are lots of fine delineations you can do about it, some of which are true and some are not. You could claim that the people who've come out in recent weekends on the Saturdays care about Palestinian lives. I don't think they do.
I don't either.
I just don't think they do. And I'll tell you one reason why, is that nobody in the Middle East, apart from the Israelis, cares about the Palestinians a jot.
Yeah, have you noticed that? I mean, no one wants them. I mean, it really makes sense. Even if you're part of the group that says the Palestinians need to stay where they are and continue the fight until eventually Israel is conquered or something like. Even if you're part of that group, it really makes sense to say, okay, at least get all the women and children out of there. Let them cross the border. Let them cross, because keep in mind, Gaza shares a border with Egypt. They could cross that. They could cross that border. Egypt won't let them. Hamas won't let them. And so why are the women and children there? Because everyone is keeping them there. And these are the same people who claim to really care about Palestinians. Won't take in the women and children. Definitely won't take in refugees and so on. So I don't know.
Yeah, they don't want to save those people because they need them to continue the whole religious and territorial conflict. The Palestinians are just where they need to be according to the Middle Eastern nations and Muslim nations. So no, they don't care about the lives.
Thank you both. My ICU nurse husband said yesterday, now that I know the eyes are the leather strap of the anus, my patients will do so much better. That's true. I mean, that should be in every medical textbook as Muhammad's miraculous scientific knowledge.
It probably is already.
Yeah. Yeah. So guys, notice, I mean, again, even for people who say, hey, we're not going, hey, they don't need to go anywhere and so on. I mean, look at Ukraine. In areas where things are going to get bombed, the tendency is to get women and children out of there, even out of the country. And so they go to, different different countries and so on to wait out to see how things go and so on. No one wants to touch the Palestinians. No one wants them, but they're claiming to care about them. It's wild stuff.
I've traveled around the region. I've spoken to enough people, including leaders of other countries in the region, to know the Jordanians do not like the Palestinians at all. They find them an unbelievable encumbrance, and that's why they haven't opened their borders to the people in the West Bank who should effectively be in Jordan. The Egyptians loathe the Palestinians. The authorities are keeping the border between Egypt and Gaza closed because they hate the Palestinians. I know people who were born in Gaza when Gaza was owned by Egypt. If Egypt wanted to solve the Gaza problem, it could do so tomorrow by taking control of Gaza or allowing the people of Gaza to go into Egypt, where they should be.
Important point. There are all these solutions out there to all these problems, and like to end the problem instantly, no one wants to do it. No one wants to do anything that actually ends the problem. And then so you've got Israel saying, okay, we're going to do our best to end the problem, since no one else will end it in a way that would work, given what they say their goals are, but they never actually do anything.
Here's the thing: the justification when you tell them about this, or when you bring this up, the justification is that if they accept those refugees and if they take them into their countries and let them live there, then Israel will use this as an opportunity to permanently seize the land and never let them come back. That's what they, that's the argument that they often present, and they base that on the displacement, much of the fleeing and some of the expulsion that happened in the past as a result of Arab aggression wars. But again, I mean, you could do all kinds of different arrangements, agreements to get around that. You could at least, in the end, care about the lives and say, it doesn't matter. Let's just save these people. But no, it's just always about the territory. It means something to the Arabs and the Muslims. They don't want to live there themselves, but they want to keep those Palestinians there, whom they also don't want to accept because they cause trouble. I mean, Egypt has a history with this. Egypt, there was a time where Egypt opened the border and had Palestinians in the region, where they then ended up causing chaos and killing Egyptian security officers. And Jordan had big trouble with them. They created terrorist organizations there. In Lebanon, the Palestinians went there and started terrorist activities and dragged Lebanon into the war again. So people don't want to accept them. They don't like them. They don't want to accept them for geopolitical reasons, for religious reasons. It's a giant mess. But the thing is, nobody really cares about the lives here.
Yeah, and I mean, think about it, right? It's very easy for people to just recognize, okay, you're not going to actually conquer Israel. That's a fantasy, and therefore we just need to do something with these people. Gaza is like the size of, I think it's like the size of Philadelphia. You've got 49 Muslim majority countries. You have a lot. I understand Jordan not wanting to take in refugees. They've already had a bunch. I understand Syria not wanting to take in refugees. They've got a bunch. You have a ton of Muslim countries with a ton of land and a ton of oil that could easily take in a bunch of refugees. Don't want them. They don't want one. Interesting. But they're ready to encourage rallies and protests, but just not to actually help anyone.
I have to tell you. Oh wait, Gaza Strip. No, it's actually almost the same size as Philadelphia. What? Oh, that's cool. Yeah. Okay, no, same size.
Giovanni here says, Hamas oppressors, how dare you destroy our buildings? How will we rid ourselves of the gays? We have been reduced to stoning them like savages. Hamas is going to get mad that their buildings for throwing them off of.
Yeah, terrible.
Have been damaged.
Nobody else in the region cares. the Qataris host Hamas and fund Hamas, as well as, of course, pumping billions of pounds into countries like this one to make us deeply compromised. But nobody in the region cares about the Palestinians.
I love the way this guy
Certainly nobody cares about them more than the Israelis, who go to incredible efforts to try to limit the deaths and the mistreatment of the Palestinians, even as the whole region, the world, has given them these people to look after. Nobody really cares about the Palestinians, and frankly, the idea that Muslims care about their brother Muslims is absolute rubbish. I think we've flattered much of the so-called Muslim street by even pretending this in recent years.
Yeah, and we've brought this up repeatedly that if it's Muslims killing Muslims, they don't raise a peep out of it unless you're Shia and it's Sunnis killing Shias, or you're Sunni and Shias kill some Sunnis. Even then, you don't hear anywhere near the rage that you do with something like this. But guys, there's been a war going on. There was a war going on for years where Saudi Arabia and the UAE are bombing even civilian targets in Yemen. I mean, they're bombing weddings and so on, taking people out. You didn't hear a peep about this. You definitely didn't see these college campus protests and so on. Suddenly, the moment Jews get involved, then it's a really big issue. And everyone needs to really care. And it's because we care about the Palestinians so much. Wait, you could solve that entire problem right now. Muslim countries could solve the entire problem right now in taking the Palestinian population. Do you care about them? Yes, we care about them, but no, that's not an option. What about all these other Muslims who are being slaughtered by their fellow Muslims? No, we don't care about that stuff. What about the Uyghurs? Yeah, we kind of, we'll say something in front of an embassy if we don't have anything else to do. But yeah, we're not really enraged against China because we know it's not going to work against China. We know the complaints aren't going to work against China. But with Israel, yeah, there we go. There's our victim status right there.
You know what's funny?
This is not fun. This is not funny. This is serious, AP.
I know. But in the Yemen civil war, it says, according to the UN, over 150,000 people have been killed in Yemen, as well as estimates of more than 227,000 dead as a result of an ongoing famine and lack of healthcare facilities due to the war. And this is only since 2014. So between 150,000 and 227,000. Syrian civil war, over 230,000 civilian deaths. And when it comes to the
hundreds of thousands of Muslims, of thousands of Muslims, we don't hear a peep about it.
But when it comes to the Israel-Palestine conflict, it says the estimate on casualties is since 1965, significantly longer. It's 21,000 casualties. That's what it pretty much. What it says here.
So you can roll it all up, and way more Muslims are dying from other things, and no one cares at all.
The issue is nothing brings Muslims together quicker than hating Jews. I'm sorry to say this, but this is just it's just in the Muslim world, it's just extremely popular to hate Jews, and if the opponents are other Muslims, then they feel sad about it for a little bit, and then it's all over. But if the opponents are Jews, then this is like all Muslims have to come together. This is the eternal enemy here. Everybody has to hate them, and everybody will feel very united in hating them because it's so much fun.
And it reminds me of like Black Lives Matter in the U.S. Whereas, if you're thinking of it, however you're thinking of that, if you're thinking of it in terms of police who are sometimes scumbags and will not hesitate to be a little trigger happy and kill people or things like that, then you think, okay, yeah, this is important. But when anyone who's not a cop is killing black people, it's completely irrelevant. And it gets brought up to Black Lives Matter organization. How come you don't care about all these people who are just like slaughtering each other in Chicago? What's that? And they say, no. Black Lives Matter is specifically addressed towards what police are doing and so on. And so what you see is like, 1,000 black people could all die in, gun violence and so on in Chicago. There wouldn't be a word about it. But if one police officer killed one black man, it would be, there could be riots in the streets over it. And anyway, that just reminds me of that same idea where you become fixated on one particular person as an oppressor. And unless that person or that group that you've designated the oppressor is doing it, it doesn't really matter. We got Mort here saying both of you guys look super dapper. That's true. I think he's thinking about
what is that?
dapper. Dapper. It's when you're like really, really styling with your, I guess he's thinking about your hat. I don't know what he's talking about. I know I got this cool shirt on, so yeah, I'm looking dapper.
Yeah.
Douglas Murray we don't know what that is. What is that? Eaton? What is that?
I don't know.
Liam says, how much wood could a woodchuck chuck if a wood were the leather strap of the anus? You guys should review, who's that? Michaela Peterson's interview on Norman Finkelstein. Is that Norman Finkelstein? I think the N is for Norman.
Yeah.
I haven't seen that. Wouldn't mind checking it out, though. Douglas Murray is brilliant, and he knows how the so-called Middle East politics work. Hamas is a terrorist group. Yeah, he does seem to understand the stuff that's going on pretty well. But with that said, let's get back to...
I love this guy.
He gets real brutal here.
Hundreds of thousands of Muslims have been killed in Yemen in the last few years, and there hasn't been a protest 1% of the size of what we've seen in recent days and weeks in the West. Hundreds of thousands of Muslims have been killed in Syria in the last over a decade, since the civil war in Syria, by Assad, by the Assad regime, by rival jihadist groups, by intra-religious sects, and much more. And we haven't seen 1% of the people who turned out on the streets this day. The idea that Muslims actually care about their fellow Muslims is insane. They don't. What they care about is Jews.
Ouch. Oh, that's good. And by the way, just going in a different direction, there is always this thing with, remember Muhammad Hijab and for us, life begins at death, or whatever he was saying. And there's a common saying, we love death more than you love life.
Yeah.
And so we love death. We think death is great. We think getting killed by the enemies of Allah is great. That's martyrdom. That's the greatest thing that can happen. Oh, we're victims here. It's like, wait a minute. You're the ones who say you love being killed, and it's everything you want in life, and you love death. You love death. You love death. Until it's just convenient to say, oh, look, we're being killed. We're victims here. We hate death. We don't want to die. Anyway.
Yeah.
Powerful.
There is something at the very root of Islam and followers of the Muslim religion.
Where?
Who cannot bear any war in which Israel is fighting, and most of all loathes any war in which Israel is winning.
He's zeroed in right on that guy. Guys, that is the real factor here. That is the real obsession. They can't stand the idea of Jews winning something against Muslims. They can't take it. They can't take it, and that's the real heart of this problem here.
It's insane to me that he is one of the only few people who actually point out this very big elephant in the room, which is at the core of this whole conflict. So many people just don't want to talk about it or don't see it, but although it's very obvious, and I'm so happy that he won't shy away from talking directly about it.
I just started reading this. I took JP's advice and got an Islamist pen pal, but for some reason, all his letters keep coming back in scribbles. I'm still waiting on a package from him. Islamophobes at the post office that are holding it for suspicious beeping. Yeah, that's why that's why Jordan Peterson suggested some sort of a social media platform where Muslims can interact with non-Muslims, because there's nothing like that. There's no sort of platform where Muslims and non-Muslims can have discussions and so on. So Jordan Peterson's advocating, creating one. But yeah, keep in mind, pen pal, that's just slang for internet person you're interacting with. Because yeah, you don't want to be giving some of these jihadi dudes your address.
Yeah, alhamdulillah.
Right. This one's from Jai. This is going back. This is he's talking about the Daniel thing. Wait, look at this. He says, about 2 minutes before you went live, Daniel challenged you both to it. Did he challenge us both to a debate?
He said something about you. Let me see.
Care what he says about me.
I think he said, if he challenged me first, and he said that if I don't accept it, then he called me. Wait, let me read this actually.
Yeah, read it.
Daniel
Read.
Kikic just
Read. Read.
I can't
Read in the name of
I
Allah.
can't read.
I said read, dang it.
I've challenged many Zionist Jews to debate, but none of them have accepted. So now I'll scrape the bottom of the barrel and challenge Zionist rat apostate prophet to debate me this Friday on Islam versus Judaism. Which religion is to blame for the Israel-Palestine war? Must be this Friday. 10-minute openings, 5-minute responses.
On what? Wait, hang on. On what planet do these guys think it must be this guy? I mean, we're going live that day. Why are we going to do anything with you?
And then he said, if apostate prophet is not available or too scared, I will settle for that coward who blocked me, Act 17 David, or that dumb tard, the Harris Sultan. One of you Zionist scumbags come get humiliated this Friday.
Yeah. Hey, Daniel, I agree to the debate, but first you have to debate, was Muhammad a true prophet? And you have to debate AP on, is Islam true?
First me. He has to debate me first. Yeah. So.
Yeah. So do those, and then we'll do your debate.
Yeah.
Mr. Archer here says that people can't understand that human shields don't grant you immunity from a conflict you started boggles my mind. They would kill the shield in a heartbeat if their family was being slaughtered. Yeah, and generally in a war, you don't want to do that. If you're a soldier, you don't want to go run and hide behind people. That's bad. That's cowardly.
What? Why?
But it's exactly what they do. Yeah, and this is popular, and their own people don't call them out for it. Of course they're going to hide behind women and children. What else are they supposed to do? Fight like men? Ah! You know what you're actually supposed to do? Surrender. That's what you're supposed to do.
Yes.
Surrender. But yes, this is about to be brought up, Mr. Archer.
You can see it. It's at the absolute core of their being. This is why they are on the streets of this city and others marching. It's not because they love fellow Muslims, it's because they hate Jews.
What? So you're saying there's something at the root of the religion. Well, let's tease that apart. What do you mean by that?
Well, there's two particular...
What are you talking about?
It's funny because I know Constantine and Francis, they both are aware of that, and they both don't like Islam very much. But yeah, so it's nice that they go there.
What are you thinking? Are you thinking of things like, it was narrated that Abu Huraira said, the Messenger of Allah said, the hour will not begin until the Muslims fight the Jews, and the Muslims will kill them until a Jew hides behind a rock or a tree, and the rock or tree will say, oh, Muslim, oh, slave of Allah, there's a Jew behind me, come and kill him. What could this have to do with anything? Yeah,
well, that can't be it. No.
Yeah, so he's not acting like there's not. He's just giving Douglas a lead in. Like, hey, Douglas, well, are you saying what could you be referring to here? Oh, here we go.
Things worth mentioning. One is, of course, that Muhammad, the founder of Islam, himself beheaded, massacred many, many Jews. Famously, there's one battle in particular, and the Banu Quraysh. It's a story you can find in the...
Ooh, he said Banu Quraysh, wrong tribe.
Oh no,
it's Qurayza.
In the Quran and the Hadith. And of course, this is because the Jews would not accept the revelation of Muhammad, such as it was. And
it's interesting there that he says the reason was that they wouldn't accept the revelation of Muhammad, and they were conspiring with the Meccans against Muhammad. But notice, the real reason Muhammad was mad at the Jews was because they rejected him. That is he's absolutely correct. That is the real cause of everything. Everything else that happened was just looking for a justification to either exterminate or at least expel the Jews, because they were the ones who were exposing him as a false prophet. He's saying he spent 12 years in Mecca saying the Jews are going to confirm me. The Jews, they know their scriptures. The Jews are going to tell you their scriptures prophecy about me. They're going to be on my side. He goes up there. What? Who are you? You loser! Get out of here! And then he was just enraged at them.
Yeah, it's very nice that Douglas Murray doesn't even entertain their explanation of it. He just
gives the real and correct, absolutely correct reason.
Yeah. They were seen within Islamic tradition as being one of the first people who turned down the opportunity to join Islam, and as a result, of course, Muhammad decapitated hundreds and hundreds of Jews. So that's not a good start. But there's a bigger thing, I think, within the Muslim world, which is worth mentioning, which the late Bernard Lewis pointed out on a number of occasions, which is the great problem within Islam when it comes to not just Judaism, but the wider non-Islamic world, is that the Muslim religion claims to be the last revelation from God to man, which we all know is a very large claim to make.
He's zeroing in on another really important feature of that's behind all these conflicts, that hey, we've got the last and final revelation. He doesn't bring this up, but we're the best of peoples, you're all the worst of creatures. We're supposed to dominate you all. That's the way it is. But he's about to go into something I've pointed out here, and it's very very important for everyone to understand the psychology of what's going on here. But check this out.
There have been previous revelations, but this is the last and final one. And what's more, God has given you a book, the Quran. And the Quran is the one book you need. The opening, here is the book wherein is no doubt, which is quite a bold claim as well, I'd say.
Wherein is no doubt.
No doubt. The claim at the foundation of Islam is, here is the book wherein is no doubt, and it's the only book you need. And it's the final word from God that man will ever have. Now, if you are the recipients of this book, the people who end up either converting or being forced to convert to Islam, and eventually the areas that Islam takes over by force, if you are somebody who's brought up in that tradition, you would think that being the recipient of the final revelation from God, you would be in a just tip-top situation.
Are you getting this? This is awesome, right? He's going into the psychology, right? Like, hey, again, he doesn't bring up best of peoples and so on, but that's the idea. We're the special people. We've got the book. Everyone else, they've got stuff that's now outdated. We're the basically, God's chosen people for dominating and subjugating the entire world. We've got this book that is the absolute book of all books. We've got it. And what's wrong? What's going to be wrong with all this? What's going to bother you? The fact that everyone else seems to have a massive advantage over you in technology and money, everything else, right? Anyway.
You would imagine that, well, this is going very well. We've got the final revelation from God. What's not to like? What's not on our side? And then several things happen in the millennia since, which is, first of all, many, many Muslims realize that despite having the final revelation from God, things don't seem to be going very well.
Yeah, they sure
Until
don't.
oil is discovered in certain parts of the Middle East, most people live in total destitution.
The people point out you have nice areas now. That's just because they're sitting on a massive sea of oil. If it's not for that, that is not a place anyone wants to live. That is not, I wouldn't want, most people wouldn't want to live there now, even with the nice places, unless you're like Andrew Tate and you're just looking for a place to flee your crimes and so on. But not the sort of place anyone wants to live. And is this the way it's supposed to be here? No, we're supposed to be the greatest land, the greatest people. Everything is supposed to be great about us. And it's almost like our book is holding us back. That's weird.
Yeah, there is a thing. You can find these comparisons on the internet as well, like these old photos or reimaginations of what Saudi Arabia looked like at the beginning of the last century, and what it looked like at the end of that very century. It's like, there is a difference between New York at the beginning of the 20th century at the end of it, but the difference between Saudi Arabia at the beginning and the end is huge. In the beginning, it just looks like, there's nothing, just, stones put up on each other. There's nothing there, and now it's full of skyscrapers and stuff like that. It's insane.
Powerful.
Stuff.
But this is, guys, this produces resentment, right? It's, hey, we're supposed to be dominating the world. We're supposed to be dominant in everything. We've got the book that contains all the knowledge that we need to be the greatest of everything. And it doesn't look like it's working very well at all. And if we didn't have a sea of oil right under us, this would be like the crappiest place in the world to live, the heart of the Muslim world. Is this how things are supposed to be? No, we're supposed to be dominant. Why is it? and it causes resentment. Well, maybe there's a Jewish conspiracy that's doing all this.
Discoveries and enlightenments of Europe largely passed the Muslim world by. This shouldn't be exaggerated. Certain parts of the Muslim world, of course, give the Western world certain parts of what becomes the Western European tradition. So there were times of interplay. There were times of mutual learning. And now, of course, everyone looks back at them, or many people look back at those times with nostalgia. Nevertheless, in the main, the Muslim world cut itself off from the rest of the world and didn't care to learn from the rest of the world, didn't improve the economic conditions of its people, totally failed to create societies anything like as successful as, for instance, European societies.
And by the way, I mean, we've talked about this many, many times before, but I mean, to this day, even now that they're drenched in oil, where do Muslims want to move to? They all want to move to the West. Like every country, they want to move to the West. And so even post finding seas of oil and being extremely rich, they want to get out of there and come to a different country. Among the kuffar. They'd rather live among the kuffar. And all these dawah guys, where do they want to live? Among the kuffar. They like it better than Sharia. And then they come over here.
I don't know if that's true. I feel like many of them want to go to the Muslim world, right? They're all begging to go there, and people from the West, they're also flooding to the East.
Yep. People just can't find plane tickets.
Yeah.
And therein a question arises, which is, if we are the recipients of the final revelation, why is everything so awful where we live?
Why is everything?
And
suck?
then you have.
Yeah, why does everything suck when everything is if think about this, guys. If our religion is true, why does everything suck? If our religion is true, everything should be awesome. But everything isn't awesome. Everything sucks. Therefore religion's not true.
Easy, but they couldn't figure that out.
The additional thing, which is, and how come the Jews return or re-establish of course, many Jews are already living in the area that's now Israel, but already lived there, but many others come from other parts of the world, including from the Middle Eastern countries where they're chucked out by the governments in 48 and so on. The Muslim world sees this tiny, tiny bit of land, which, among other things, is the only bit of the Middle East that doesn't have any oil.
But by the way, I mean, I want to watch this like 10 times. The point he's making here. We've got all this land, and then we end up with all this oil. It still sucks. No one wants to live there. The Jews have this tiny spot, which is the only place that doesn't have the oil, and they're about to turn it into the most advanced place there is there. And it just enrages them. Why is that one group able to do way more with one little spot than we can do with all our spots?
That is true. Israel is insanely advanced compared to the rest of the Middle East. Is making insane contributions to the world, to science, to innovation, to defense systems, computer systems, and so on, compared to the Middle East. The Middle East is the oil nations are now rich because of the oil, but they're not working, they're not producing anything. Whereas Israel is there on its own, surpassing all of them by far, and that's harsh.
Knows Too Much says, recommend checking Caroline Glick for insights on the conflict. Search in YouTube. She reports on stuff you won't see reported in Western media outlets. You familiar with that? You familiar with Caroline Glick?
No.
Yeah, me neither. Anyone else know?
No.
We'll see. You do know.
And they make of it a much more successful country than any of the countries around. Now, if you create a Palestinian state, you just have another failed
I want to rewind that a little bit.
Anything like as successful as, for instance, European societies. And therein a question arises, which is, if we are the recipients of the final revelation, why is everything so awful where we live? And then you have the additional thing, which is, and how come the Jews return or re-establish of course, many Jews are already living in the area that's now Israel, but already lived there, but many others come from other parts of the world, including from the Middle Eastern countries where they're chucked out by the governments in 48 and so on. The Muslim world sees this tiny, tiny bit of land. This tiny bit of land, which, among other things, is the only bit of the Middle East that doesn't have any oil.
It's like the worst. It seems like the worst spot as far as if you want to build up. If you want to build up, you definitely want to be in the one of the spots that has, rivers of oil flowing beneath you. You get the one spot that doesn't have anything like that. I mean, think about this. They have, Israel, they've got one river. And it is, we wouldn't even, in West Virginia, we would not call it a river. We'd call it a creek. Or to be more accurate, a crick. But everyone else would call it, would be familiar with creek. We would call it a creek. That's the Jordan River. They have one lake, the Sea of Galilee, which they call a sea, but a lake. It's a big lake. So they've got a lake and a creek, and then they've got the Dead Sea. And that's what you've got. That's your resources. And they turn it into a modern, massively developed nation.
And they make of it a much more successful country than any of the countries around. Now, if you create a Palestinian state, you just have another failed Arab state, another failed Muslim state to add to the more than 50 already failed Muslim and Arab states.
Yes.
I mean, and here again, the whole conflict is a perfect example of that. If they weren't being incredibly stupid, they would have their own state, right? The Palestinians would have their own state if they didn't keep screwing it up. And so they can't even get a state to screw up because they keep screwing up even their efforts to get this state to begin with. It's like they can't get it right. Guys, I mean, think about this. You've got the land, the British Mandate of Palestine. Like, oh, okay, we're going to divide this up. And then you end up with a bunch of hellholes and then Israel. And I don't know what to do. But you can see like the psychological problem that this would cause. These Jews seem really good at building a place where people can live, and we just suck at it.
What is the explanation? The Jews who refused the Prophet's invitation to Islam are still here, have this tiny bit of land, and make all of these discoveries and other things that show themselves to be so successful. It's some kind of stab in the heart. And instead of saying, we're doing this wrong, the thing is, the Jews are doing something right, and that must mean that they've rigged the game.
Isn't this brilliant, man? Saying they're looking at it. Hey, how come Jews can make this awesome place right there where they don't have any, they've got no natural resources. They got nothing, and they turn it into a massively successful state. We can't do that. Why can't we do that? Well, I don't know. They must have rigged this somehow. It must be a conspiracy.
We suck.
So they're evil and so on. Because the alternative is there's a problem with us and our book and so on. And well, we just can't. We can't accept that.
No, we suck.
We can't accept any sort of internal critique.
That's why they care, among other things. And it leads to the deep pathology of anti-Semitism, which has been largely eradicated in Europe among Europeans, not entirely, but largely. There are still some bits of the far right you can find across Europe, and occasionally in the UK with a sort of the whiff of this noxious thing still emerges. On the left, of course, it's much closer to the boat. But principally anti-Semitism in our own day, of the kind that we hoped had ended with Hitler, exists and indeed thrives in the Muslim world. And the Muslim world is now in our world in Europe, and so we have the Hitlerian horrors of anti-Semitism back.
Well, I have no doubt.
Isn't it interesting though? Like he pulls it all together and shows you what's really going on and the psychology of it all. But I mean, I actually think this is tied into the grooming gangs in the UK, in the sense that from an Islamic perspective, we're supposed to be dominant and powerful and in control of the rest of you. And in reality, we're coming to you begging to give us a place to live, to get out of the Sharia compliant hellholes that we come from. Can we please come and live in your countries that are obviously far better developed, and they're so much better than our countries, that we can't stand the idea of living there. Then we want to come there and then advocate all the same views and policies that led to the Sharia compliant hellholes that we wanted to get out of. And we want the same rules here. But they look around and it's like, hey, look at the world. Everyone else is more powerful than us, and everyone else is more developed than us. And that's not the way it's supposed to be. And they kind of lash out in rage. And I will show you how you're supposed to be treated. And how you're supposed to be treated is, we're going to just treat you like garbage and treat you like our sex slaves and drug you and rape you and gang rape you and all these things. And it's a similar mindset as far as the stuff that Douglas Murray's talking about, is that psychologically as far as the way my book tells me the world is supposed to be, I'm supposed to be controlling the rest of you by now. I'm supposed to be the most developed. We're supposed to have everything. You're all supposed to be servants. And the entire situation is reversed. So we're going to do everything we can to whine and complain to be victims, because it must be that you're oppressors and we're victims. That's the only way to explain the massive failures in our lands, in our country. It's got to be you. It can't be us and our book and our stupid fake prophet. Can't be that. Yeah. So we're going to unload our rage on the Jews. We're going to go after little girls, everything we need to do, terrorist attacks, everything. It's all a big temper tantrum. This isn't the way things are supposed to be. These are like kids screaming, rolling around on the floor of the checkout aisle at Walmart because mommy won't buy them some Skittles.
Yeah, pretty much.
What? Really?
Pretty much.
Limes and Stripes says Al-Bukhari 278 for the reenactment series. I think that's one of the passages. I think Sahih al-Bukhari 278 is one of the Muhammad went around to all his wives in one night. What's crazy is like some sicko could do a porn movie out of Muhammad visiting all his wives in one night. But
no, wait. That one is actually, it's Moses and the stone. That's what.
Oh, that's Moses and the stone. Which one is? No, there's one in the same area that is. Are you sure?
Yeah, this 278
one sounds right.
Nothing prevents Moses from taking a bath with us except that he has a scrotal hernia. Yeah, this is that.
Well, now I want the correct reference. 5068. Oh, 268. 268. Well, yeah, okay. 268. Gosh, I was off by 10, man. I'm getting slow. In my old age. It's 268 is the all his wives in one round.
You should retire, man.
Got to give it up, man. There's no way I can debate now. Zippy here. Muslim one's going to say, I hate you. Muslim two is going to say, I hate you. Oh, they're saying it to each other. Hey, I hate you. No, I hate you. And then the Jew says, hey, guys, Muslim 1 and 2, we hate you. Yeah, that's pretty much the Dawa guys right now. I mean, they all attack each other constantly, and until Jews come around, and then Sunnis and Shias as well. Tori Scott says, ex-UK Prime Minister Boris Johnson wrote an anti-Islamic novel called. Did we hear about this yesterday?
We heard something about that yesterday.
Wrote an anti-Islamic novel called 72 Virgins years ago. One terrorist is sexist to a Satna for his female voice.
Wait, I didn't know.
That's weird. How did he become prime minister there?
We're gonna have Virgins. A Comedy of Errors is a 2004 novel by politician, journalist, and former Prime Minister Boris Johnson. I didn't even know that. That's funny.
We got a debate challenge from the next Zakonike. Hey, David and AP, I challenge you to a debate on whether or not the eyes are the leather strap of the anus. You won't do it because you're scared.
I think I would lose.
Yeah. How are we gonna win that one? Basma says, hi, AP and D Wood, Egyptian here. Egypt is surrounded with issues in surrounding countries. Our government is so proud about keeping us safe, but literally everything else is censored. Sending love. Yeah. Kind of more confirmation of what Douglas Murray is saying. No, because guys, think about this, right? You've got Israel right there. It has no natural resource. It has nothing. It doesn't have anywhere near the kinds of resources that a bunch of other places in the Middle East have. You've got Egypt and Saudi Arabia and Iraq. And I mean, some of these places were like massive civilizations, like the dominant civilizations in the world a long, long time before Muhammad, right? So it's not like it's not like you don't have the building blocks there. You could build something. How are you not building a great civilization? You've had 14 centuries to do it. You end up with a bunch of Sharia compliant hellholes. How are you not doing something? How are you not doing something there? And then you think, oh, okay, maybe it's just the entire region is so screwed up that we can't do anything here. And Israel goes there and we build it up in a couple of decades into one of the most successful countries in the world. What is your problem? They're getting Nobel Prizes left and right for all their developments and so on. They're exporting water to the rest of the Middle East because they're purifying it there. Even though they don't have a great source for all this water, they purify it. They take it out of the Mediterranean Sea. They recycle the water that's being used by people, and they're exporting it to other people. Like, at what point do you start realizing maybe everyone else isn't the problem? Maybe everyone else isn't the problem here.
There is an issue of a gap in work ethics, among other things, especially. I don't know. I don't want to be too inaccurate about this, but with the whole Ashkenazi European influence of Israel, there is a great emphasis on proper work ethics that also come from Europe. Arab nations are not very they don't work very well, and you can see that when you travel through the Arab world. When you travel through the Arab world, you will see it. It's like
if you weren't Turkish, I'd be screaming at you for being a white supremacist right now.
Working is not a very popular thing in the Arab world, and I don't blame them. It might be. I mean, it might have a background in, I don't know, how the circumstances, the climate, and things like that condition them to live a different way. I don't really know, but they don't have the same work ethics.
Yeah, and I mean, that's not just them, because I mean, lots of other like communist places and stuff. You have to be made to do stuff. But in Europe, I remember Paul Copan talking about this. There was a concept. They ended up in research. They called it a Protestant work ethic, where you have passages in the Bible that say, whatever you do, do it with all your might as working for the Lord. And so they came to see work as something good. It's like it's good to do your best at whatever you're doing. So you work hard and work hard and work hard. And once you absorb that idea, then you've got a bunch of people working hard. You're obviously, if you have any culture in the world and you absorb the idea that it's great to work hard, but notice the mentality is not you're working hard so that you get lots of stuff and you get good results. It's just something about the process of working hard is like good for your soul or something like that. And you get a bunch of people like that, and then you end up building up a massive a massively successful area, which that's being reversed right now, because now work is regarded as bad, and you want the government to do everything for you.
If I'm not getting virgins in the end, I'm not going to work.
That's what I'm saying. That's what it's all about. Giovanni says, hey guys, look at the massive mole on my back. The thing's the size of Utah. Followers, what's a Utah mode? Disbeliever, you must be punished. Hey, we got a message here from Strap-On Pleasure Machine. Why are you stuttering? All right.
You're right, Douglas, but one of the things that I think all of us have been struck by in recent weeks is that the pro-Palestine cause, let's put it in that language as they do, is very popular among young people. In fact, I'm sure you've seen the polls which show that young people believe the Hamas attack was genocidal.
So, follow the reasoning for anyone who hasn't been, if anyone's tuning in right now. Douglas Murray just went through the psychology of the problem, why there is so much hatred towards Jews. And his position is it's not really towards anything bad. That's the real cause of the animosity. It's not because Jews are going around doing horrible things. It's because they're so massively successful and they're winning. And the Muslim mind can't absorb that. And so that's the source of the rage. And so Constantine is asking, well, but wait a minute, you got all these college campuses and young people, and they're against them too, and they're not in that position. So he's raising an objection here. We'll see.
I believe it was justified on the basis of what Israel.
They are pro-genocide.
It seems to be.
Yeah.
And not all of those people are young Muslims in this country. Some of them are not. How did that happen?
Fantastic ignorance. I mean, does anyone around this table, anyone watching, honestly think that we have a generation that is well educated?
Touche.
He said touche. He said, so he asked, hey. So again, he's saying, hey, your explanation for why there's so much hatred against the Jews is basically Muslims are jealous, and that's the source of the problem. And then Constantine's response is, but you got all these people who aren't Muslims who don't have that background, and they hate the Jews too. What's going on? Well, they're stupid. Oh, touche.
That's good.
Oh boy, good. Let's see if he burns them up a little more here.
I mean, find me the teacher or find me the professor at any university that in the last 50 years who would say to you, every year the undergraduates come up, the students come up, and they just know more and more each year.
But isn't that insane? You'd think with like the internet and such instant access to anything anyone could want to learn, we would be knowing more and more and more, and yet we get dumber and dumber and dumber. Wow, this is awesome.
Because people use the internet to look at I don't know, cat videos. People dance. People do all kinds of weird things instead of which you can do. It's all nice. It's all cool, but but you have at your fingertips access to so much knowledge in the world, and you don't use it. It's very, very sad.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe in certain sciences you could say in a particular field. Mm-hmm. You couldn't say it about the humanities at all. You couldn't say it in most fields. Certainly people don't come up every year knowing more and more history. The reason why the young people you talked about believe this is because they have been fed a form of indoctrination, a particular version of history, which effectively, as you both know, maps on a very specific and perverted version of American racial history and maps it onto absolutely everything in the rest of the world. Add to that a particular form of anti-colonial history, post-colonial history, whatever you want to call it, which knows nothing of colonialism, but knows only about the post-colonial world. And you also see that is mapped onto the Middle East. So these people...
Okay, so here he's saying he gave the reasons for Muslims being enraged at Jews. And so the question is, why are other people enraged about Jews, specifically in this conflict? And why are they siding with the Palestinians over Israel? And he's saying that other people are taking what they're familiar with, and so they're familiar with various oppressors in the past and their own nations oppressing other nations in the past and so on, and certain groups oppressing other groups and so on. And they're mapping that onto what's going on there. So Israel's the oppressor, and the Palestinians are like the oppressed groups that we're familiar with in the past. Yeah. And so, hey, we condemn the oppressions of the past, so therefore we got to condemn these guys too. What he brought up there, as far as people not knowing about history anymore, saying people are knowing less and less about history. I mean, think about this: you could solve a lot of the issues. You're not really. I mean, it's not going to solve them and so on, but it's going to help people understand if it was just standard in schools to teach the very basics about like the formation of Israel and the background of it. Like how is that not standard, something that people are learning in schools or in college, just a little bit about that? Like, guys, here's what actually happened, so that when someone comes in with the myth, oh yeah, you had the Palestinian people and they were there forever, and then the Jews came in and took their land, and now they're fighting to get their land back. I mean, how is it off? How is it impossible to just give people the basics? I don't know.
I favor the option of putting everyone who attempts to talk about this topic into re-education camps and forcibly teaching them about the
AP advocates re-education camps.
Forcibly teaching them about the history of this conflict. I think it would be very beneficial.
That actually, I mean, we're going to get to the point where Douglas Murray here is saying, "Hey, I don't want to live in a country with these guys who are supporting Hamas and stuff. So get them out, deport them all." But yeah, he's not too far away from saying, "Look, Look, anytime you see these groups of college students, they should be put in re-education camps and, literally re-educated. Just set them in chairs and show them stuff. Also worth checking, knows too much says, also worth checking, Yoram Ettinger, a researcher with some very important videos. Search YouTube. You familiar with that?
Nope.
Do you know anything, AP? I keep going to you. Nope. For you study all this stuff on this conflict, and I ask you for input on any of these people, and you don't know any. I'm starting to think you don't actually know anything.
Nope.
Oh, boy. Brent here says, Muslims want to be accepted and understood in Western countries, but they never explain the Quran to the local population. How about Quran story time? I would love Quran story time. I would think it was great.
Yeah.
And then some basic passages from Muhammad, like the eyes are the leather strap of the anus.
That would be amazing.
Talk about Israel and probably couldn't point to it on a map. They certainly don't know which river they mean when they chant from the river to the sea. They couldn't find that on a map, that's for sure.
Seriously, yeah.
Sea, of course, I've chanted it. Do I think that all Israelis should be pushed out of the country, or Jews, or should be treated like this? No.
Do you know which river and sea they're talking about, by the way?
I don't know the name. The river, I know the Mediterranean, it would be the sea, but no, I wouldn't know the river, no.
Okay.
Oh,
yeah. Okay, perfect. Thank you.
These.
Wow.
It's hilarious they inserted that in there.
Wow.
But guess what? You could. That would be a good thing for anyone who goes to the protest and wants to interview people. That would be a good topic. When you hear from the river to the sea, Palestine will be free. Ask them what they mean. What river? What sea? I'm surprised that guy knew the Mediterranean. I think you get a lot of college students who don't even know what they're chanting. But then this guy, of course, I don't think that Israelis should be pushed up. That's exactly what it means. That's exactly what the chant means. Oh man, why?
I mean, that just, if you don't know what river it refers to, that's kind of a sign that you don't know, that you haven't studied the basic history.
It's a sign you have absolutely no clue what you're talking about in this conflict.
You should know this. I mean, you should know that. You should be able to think of it, even if you didn't, very much think about, okay, which river does it refer to? You should. It should do ding when someone asks which river, because it has huge significance to the conflict, to the history of the region. Man, it's the Jordan River for those who missed it.
Yeah. Notice that's the land between the Jordan and the Mediterranean. That includes the land of Israel there. Yeah, and so when you say from the river to the sea, you're talking about all of Israel has to be wiped off there. Yeah. Douglas makes a great philosophical point, which can be used for Israel. It was a swamp, and the Jews turned it into what it is today. What did Gaza do? That's why they envy and resent Israel. That's Islam. Notice, I mean, you're almost in the same area. That's the point. You're almost in the same area. Like, I mean, you're on the other side of a fence. One side is Israel. The other side is like Gaza or the West Bank and so on. And so the mindset there is, oh, the reason things are so successful on that side of the fence and they suck so bad over here is because we're being oppressed. It's like, no, if you had focused on building buildings instead of building tunnels to go kill those people, you would. Why can't you do the exact same thing? You were offered the opportunity when the UN was presenting the proposal. You were offered, here's the land you have, there's the land they have. It's right beside each other. You guys can compete in how successful you're going to be. No, you don't want to. You just want to destroy those other guys. And where's it getting you? Sucksville. That's where.
Look, this is how simple it is. For decades, for a very, very long time, the opponent who is on this side repeatedly attacked in the most brutal ways. You are in charge. You defeated them several times. Instead of committing a genocide, instead of killing them, or instead of pushing all of them out, you still keep them there. And you decide in the end, you say, you know what, okay, I'm going to pull out all my settlers from there. They can have this land, they can self-govern it, they can rule there. But if you expect us to let them be entirely sovereign in the state, we're definitely not doing that. We know how that goes. So we're going to put a blockade in place, and we're going to give them everything they need. They don't even need to work for it. So You put the blockade in place. You give them everything they need, and those people then, with the stuff that they get, with all the funds, with all the resources, everything they have, what they do is, okay, we got something, we got new funds. What are we going to do with this? Let's send this to our leaders. The leaders, they will save that on the side. The rest of it, let's invest it into building tunnels and getting rockets so that we can prepare for the next attack on Israel. Instead of that, what if you stopped and said, hey guys, how about we don't do that this time? How about we take these funds and try to build something here? But no, that's a very unpopular idea.
And then you've seen these pictures of Hamas leaders and all these like the most expensive hotels and places in the entire world. Yeah. They live like absolute kings. Yeah. So you've got most of the people in Hamas, the actual jihadis in Hamas, they've got their religious purpose. But then you've got the leaders, and they're getting paid. They're becoming billionaires off this stuff. Mm-hmm. And anyway, this wild stuff. And then you got the Palestinians and their pawns in everyone else's games. A Ghazian Ethiopian for Israel says, we Ethiopians were destroyed by Islamic invasion for almost 8 years. I wouldn't say you were destroyed by Islamic invasion for almost 800 years. I forget, because I was still in prison when I was studying history, but it was what was it, Akisum, and then there was the capital of Aksum. But yeah, Ethiopia fought Muslims trying to invade for centuries, and they stood their ground, and that's pretty cool stuff. Which is crazy, because these were the same people who took in Muhammad's companions when they were being persecuted in Mecca, and they went and were taken care of there.
By the way, something to add here. When I said earlier they don't even have to work for it, I wasn't exaggerating. Half the population of Gaza is unemployed, if not more. Youth is mostly unemployed. People don't work. They don't work.
They wouldn't need to. With all the aid money they get, they wouldn't need to if they didn't spend all their money on weapons and tunnels.
Yeah.
They could just sit back and live like kings.
Yeah.
I'm exaggerating a little bit, but I mean, if their money wasn't all being funded to the lavish lifestyles of these other guys and to building weapons and then rebuilding stuff that keeps getting destroyed because they keep getting into fights with Israel, they have tons and tons of money coming in there from around the world, everyone trying to help, and they could be using that to do stuff with instead of just constantly trying to wipe out the Jews. Mm-hmm. Giovanni here says, summons demon, tell me. I think this is referring to, I don't know if you saw this, but me and IP the other day, we were watching this clip by this guy who's in the occult who had taken his shahada, and he says, if you do your demonic incantations correctly, the demons will tell you, they'll start reading the Quran to you. So he converted to Islam. And then we watched a clip from an actual exorcist, and he says you cannot believe demons when they're talking to you, except as they're being cast out, they'll blurt things out. But this guy's just like, yeah, I do my little, I chop a cat's head off and drink its blood and tell the demons to tell me the truth, and they say, I believe in Islam. And anyway, like the Muslims are cheering for him in the comments section. Oh, great, brilliant strategy, bro.
Oh, wait, is that guy who has he wears a hat that has like these ear things on it, don't they? Isn't it? And he has long hair, I think.
Yeah, this dude had long hair, like, and it's multicolored. It's multicolored.
Yes. Okay. I saw that guy. Yeah. And I thought, wow. I mean, I know that there is not much that you can expect in the Islamic world, but that they would actually follow this guy and say, "Whoa, he knows something! Yeah. Wow, great! Like, are you people dumb?"
Going to demons, getting all your information from demons, just like our prophet did. You're so smart. Sid here says Muslim excuses are that the Mongols sacked Baghdad in 1258 and they lost all their scientific works. Lol. China, Russia, Korea were all ruled by Mongols and they all do fine. Can't accept their values are inferior. Yeah, and that's important. I mean, think Europe. Europe got destroyed by the bubonic plague. They lost like a third of their population.
Yeah.
And then they get the Renaissance right after that. The scientific revolution, right? They didn't stop. It didn't stop them. Germany gets bombed down to nothing I mean, Germany got the crap bombed out of it, got invaded, got divided up, was controlled by other nations. They now have the world's 4th largest economy. Japan lost the war. Nuclear bombs were dropped on them. And now they have the 3rd largest economy in the world after the US and China. Like what Muslims, what is your excuse? Oh, but this thing happened to us 1,000 years ago. That's why we can't. I don't know, man. It's pathetic. It's absolutely pathetic.
Those things also happened to Europe, by the way. They didn't just affect the Muslim world at the same time.
Yep. All right, back to Douglas.
People talk in what terms? They basically fall into 2 groups. They talk in terms of occupation, colonizers, apartheid. This is the Americanized racial justice version of this mapped onto the Middle East. That the Israelis are colonizers, for instance, and that they're indigenous peoples, and that the Palestinians are indigenous peoples, despite there being Jews in the land many years before anyone even came up with the term Palestinian, which is a disputed term anyway.
See how much this guy knows?
They come up with this idea, for instance, that there are indigenous people who were moved out. The Palestinians are indigenous people, and they were moved out by the Jews, the Israelis, the Zionists. And this version is, of course, a replay of that version of American history, which is there were the Edenic first populations of America, the indigenous peoples, and then people from Europe came, the wicked Spanish and Italians and Portuguese and the French and even the British.
So just to be clear, everyone, because again, I know some people tune in the middle rather than at the beginning, but he went through the Islamic mindset and why there's this rage against Israel. And then the question that was brought up, why are other people like college students enraged there? And he's saying they're seeing it through a certain lens. They're comparing it to, okay, you had Native Americans, and then a bunch of people came over there and pushed them off their land and so on. And they're thinking of the Jews as like that. They're thinking of the Israelis like that, and the Palestinians are like the Native Americans, and they're pushed off their lands and so on. So they're seeing it through that lens, and that's why they're siding with the oppressed. And of course, it's total nonsense. That has nothing to do with what actually happened. They don't know their history. They don't know it enough. And it's basically the situation is you have people who hate the Jews for the Islamic reasons, but they can use that filter, that lens, to get other people on their side. And so, yeah, the Muslims who are going to the rally won't say, hey, yes, our prophet wants us to exterminate Jews. They'll say, you're all against oppressors, right? Well, the Jews are the oppressors there, so you're on our side.
Come and do their thing. And so they just put this version of history onto the Middle East. To those people, I would say, fine, you can do that if you want. Now let's do Britain.
Oh.
Yeah.
Yeah, he's talking about the people who are now moving to Britain. Okay, so they're coming to someone else's land. We've got the natives in Britain. We got these other people who are coming along. Can we say the same thing there?
Yeah, we should.
Want to play that game? You sure?
Yeah, sure.
You better not get the British started.
But that's tell me more, Douglas. What do you mean?
You want to play the indigenous people own the land first game and the other people should fuck off? Well, it's 60 years of mass migration into the UK. Who are the indigenous peoples of the UK?
You all right, AP?
Yeah, I didn't expect that.
I forgot about it.
He's so blunt.
I would have bleeped that. Yeah. All right. Oh boy. So we got the indigenous peoples here in Britain, and we got all these people moving in. I thought the people who are moving in on the indigenous peoples are the bad guys, and that's not the case here. Interesting.
Okay. People who've been here the longest. Who are the settlers? Who are the illegal settlers in Britain? Oh, well, that would be the people who've arrived. Does anyone want to go there?
Well,
it's funny. It's like so simple, right? Okay. Here's your rule over here. Okay. Exact same rule over here. Now what? Oh, you don't want to do that. Okay, so you don't actually believe in the rule? Do you guys actually believe in anything? It's like you'll take the Jews and then you'll make up all these rules for the Jews just to get people enraged about the Jews. But you don't believe in anything you're saying. You don't believe in any of the moral principles you're saying. You don't believe in defending any of the groups you're actually saying that you want to defend. You don't believe in any of the principles you're claiming. You don't believe in anything you're actually saying. It's all just whatever is convenient at the moment for attacking Jews. That's what you cling to. And you don't believe a word of it in any other context. Fascinating.
You see, Douglas, I think what you're saying is logically sound, as you know. But I was very struck by something. We haven't released this episode yet, but we had a conversation with Michael Malice when we were in America. And he said to me, Konstantin, you've got to realize at some point that these people do not use language to communicate. They use language to manipulate.
Sure.
And so what you are saying makes sense, except they would say, well, no, what do you mean? You are straight, white, or not straight, white, or whatever you are, right?
I'm a blue-haired lesbian, non-binary black woman.
That's not how they...
Let me rewind what he just said. Yes. Here we go. That's awesome.
But I was very struck by something. We haven't released this episode yet, but we had a conversation with Michael Malice when we were in America. And he said to me, Konstantin, you've got to realize at some point that these people do not use language to communicate. They use language to manipulate.
Sure.
And so what you are saying makes sense, except they would say, well, no, what do you mean? You are straight, white, or not straight, white, or whatever you are, right?
I'm a blue-haired lesbian, non-binary black woman.
That's not how they see you, Douglas.
Well, I self-identify.
Yes.
He just burned him up saying he identifies all this stuff.
It's funny that he called him accidentally straight.
Oopsie. Can you imagine if Douglas were actually easily offended at that stuff? Because that's the sort of thing, like if you misgender someone or any misapplication or something like that sends people to enrage nowadays.
Yeah.
And the oppressed people are the people with more melanin in their skin.
Well, they should speak to the Yemeni Jews. They should speak to the Ethiopian Jews. They wouldn't even know what I was talking about.
They
can look it up. They can educate them.
I love this guy, man.
Look at his face. They can educate themselves. He said, let them look it up.
They wouldn't even know what I'm talking about. This is awesome.
It's like this, like this super, like a lot of people speak in a condescending fashion, but it's not merited, right? Like they're doing it just for show, whereas he's doing it like he's talking about complete morons who know absolutely nothing. These college students and so on. And let them look it up. They don't know. He knows they don't know anything. And then this look on his face. It's classic.
It's so good.
Classic Douglas Murray.
The point I'm trying to make to you is we have a narrative in this country, certainly the native population, or certainly the longest living here native population, they are the oppressors. And you know that all of this is about this oppress-oppressed dynamic. So your argument in their world doesn't work.
Well, the girls in Rotherham and everywhere else in Britain who were raped by the thousands by Pakistani rape gangs in the last 20 years were not the oppressors, were they?
Yeah, it's the white people who are automatically the oppressors and the brown people who are automatically the oppressed. Okay, well, what about these guys drugging, raping, gang raping, pimping, these 12 and 13-year-old girls? Who are the oppressors there? Oh, the little girls. Gotta be.
I would say that they were the oppressed. But let me return to the second class of person who is of the left, of the kind that I was mentioning, who the second class of critic of Israel. And we learn a lot from this. What are the other accusations that they put, apart from the Americanized social justice versions? What are the other versions of this that they put on it? They say the Israelis are committing genocide, that the Israelis are like the Nazis, that the Israelis were as bad as Hitler.
Oh, so yeah, the first part of his response. So he talked about, gosh, this guy's smart. he breaks down the Islamic mindset towards the Jews. And he's got the foundation that goes back to Muhammad. They rejected Muhammad. He put him out of the land. And then in the world today, they're like a constant reminder of that there's some sort of problem within Islam. And so there's this kind of rage against the Jews for being a constant reminder that there's this problem within Islam. And then so the question was, what about other people who have a problem with Israel? And then he gave the U.S. perspective, which they're seeing it through the lens of like, again, Native Americans being oppressed by other people. And so they're thinking of Israel like that. And now he's talking about the European perspective. They're thinking like the worst thing is Hitler and Nazis. And he's saying in the European mindset, that's how they're portrayed, that the Jews are like the Nazis and it's brilliant stuff, man. How he's breaking down everyone's different perspective. And it's exactly what you see going on. It's exactly what you see going on, depending on which group you're interacting with. Wild stuff here.
Now, what is this? First of all, we have to hit on the head the idea that the Israelis are committing genocide, which is rife out there. It would be the only genocide in history in which the population massively expanded during said alleged genocide. Yeah. The population of Gaza has shot up in the last 18 years since Israel withdrew.
Yeah, I wish I'd brought up a chart, but you've seen that, right? So notice, guys, if you look at statistics on the Jewish population of Europe during the Holocaust, it plummets. Mm-hmm. Because that's what happens during a genocide, right? The population plummets because you're being genocided. That's what happens during genocides. You look at the population of Gaza, it's skyrocketing. How has the population been skyrocketing for decades while they're being genocided? Are you just saying the Jews are the absolute worst at genocide ever? What are they genociding them with? Fertilizer? What are they doing? Anyway.
Also,
what's in the bombs? What's in the bombs? Fertilizer? I don't know.
If it's a racial thing, it's also Israel has an Arab population of 20%, and their growth rate is higher than the Jewish population in Israel.
Which is pretty amazing considering it's a genocide. It's the midst of a genocide. Guys, that's what... Yeah. Okay, guys, look at... I don't know what the numbers are, but I'm predicting, because it was a genocide, that if you look up the Armenian genocide, if you were actually able to find the numbers, I bet the population went way, way down because it was a genocide. Tons of people were being killed. They were being exterminated. That's what happens in a genocide.
What are you talking about, David? If it's a genocide, that means a population booms.
That's what happens. It means you put Miracle Grow on everyone and they all just multiply.
It's unwanted growth. That's what genocide means.
This is what I mean. They keep asking them questions, but it keeps going right to the heart of that. Wait, okay, you're saying is a genocide? Is a genocide here? Okay, how is this the only genocide where the population is skyrocketing? Yeah. Oh, maybe because it doesn't sound like a genocide? Okay.
You could say that they are extremely unsuccessful genocidists, or people who would like to commit genocide but haven't managed to for some reason.
They're really
but
bad
none
at
of the analysis of what is actually happening, and I and anyone else who has traveled through the region widely can tell you this. It is nothing like, for instance, what Bashar al-Assad has done to the Syrian people over the last 13 years. It's nothing like what has been happening in Yemen in the last decade. It is not anything approaching a genocide that is happening in the West Bank or Gaza. So why do they say it?
I can think of a reason why they'd say that to Jews.
Second, why do they say like Hitler? Mm-hmm. Third, why do they say like the Nazis?
Uh-huh.
These young people have been brought up with only one bit of knowledge from history, which is Nazis. And if you only know about one thing from history, it's like...
Guys,
again, like people speak in a condescending fashion just to make themselves sound more important. It's like entirely warranted right here. They only know one thing from history. They know one thing. They know Nazis. You ask 1,000 of these college students, tell us anything you know from history. Hitler. That's what we know.
You're right. Like if somebody else was, being so condescending about this, it might sound a little bit, I don't know, annoying. It might sound, you might not like it very much. But with this guy, it's just, and he's so nonchalantly, basically insulting these people who deserve to be insulted. And I don't know. It's cool.
Rational pair here, genius here, says genocide is about intent, not population number. Bad argument.
Yeah.
The claim is that Israel is genociding the people of Gaza. That's the claim. So notice he even included that. If you want to say they're committing genocide, then you have to say they're the absolute worst genocidists of all time. Because they're trying their hardest, even though they could actually just wipe it all out tonight if they wanted to. They're trying their hardest to completely wipe this group out, but the group is just massively expanding and growing, and so Israel's just the worst at genocide ever. Or it's just a stupid claim that's being used on stupid people because stupid people only know one fact of history. They know about the Nazis, and so they're the Nazis. Oh, they're doing genocide. Wow. This guy's good, man. Nehemiah says, Muhammad, the Mahdi will be of my stock and will have a broad forehead, a prominent nose. He will fill the earth with equity and justice as it was filled with oppression and tyranny, and he will rule for 7 years. Yeah, you have a lot of the descriptions of these important things that are all about to come to pass. You also have the one that's it's a black man is going to come destroy the Kaaba. So why?
Oh, yes.
So according to Muhammad, you need to watch out. Sid Dave says all Muslim science works are basically translation of Persian and Indian works, nothing original, all copy and paste, which they try to pass off as their own. You did have times where philosophy and science took off for a bit as the armies were invading lands and taking over works that had been preserved in those areas. The Muslims would actually go to their leaders and say, hey, can we examine and investigate these works to see what benefit they will give to Islam? And that's when you would have, for a time, they would be making, they would be doing philosophy for a while. They'd be doing science for a while. Islam always tended to suffocate it. Like, hey, this is actually causing conflicts with Islam. And it would just suffocate it and then it would die. It doesn't last.
Alhamdulillah.
Unicorn 1620, eyes, leather strap, anus. Got it. That's all you need to know.
That's Islam. Yeah.
I mean, that's Islam in a nutshell. As long as you got that, you're good.
Yeah.
Except for Saudi, no society has ever gained anything from Islam. Iran, Pakistan, Egypt. Compare the pre-Islamic cultures to now, and you will see the difference. Yeah, I brought that up. I mean, again, Egypt. I mean, that's one of it's one of the great civilizations of all time, going back in the day. The Assyrians, the Babylonians, the Persians, these guys all had massive empires. So what else is it? What else is preventing these places from developing?
The Jews.
The Jews, got to be the Jews. I was a Christian until I heard about Allah's beloved scientist, Dr. Whitemeat, Sir Whitemeat. Alhamdulillah, bless me, clean leather straps, lest I fell my bed. What's wrong with people, man?
Talking about this now.
Everyone's got some weird minds, man. All right, back to Douglas here.
That you will decide that the whole of history and the whole of the current day can fall into two groups of people and be analyzed by the lens of this one thing. Hitler, not Hitler. Unfortunately,
if you only know one thing about history, there's Hitler and not Hitler. Then you break everything down into Hitler and not Hitler, and you say, okay, they're the Hitler side.
Which one is this? Is this Hitler or not Hitler? Oh, okay, Hitler. It's bad.
Every new situation that arises. Wait, which one's Hitler and which one's not Hitler? Oh, you're not Hitler. Okay, we're okay. Well, who's Hitler? Okay,
that's good.
That's classic.
These young people are throwing out the only nasty accusation they know, and they are picking it up from people who are handing them the nastiest thing that they could say. Why do I say that? They are picking up from mainly Muslim pro-Palestinian voices and pro-Hamas voices and others these allegations which come from the Muslim world against the Jewish state because the Muslim world knows how much it will wound the Jews. That's why they say that. They say the Jews are just like the Nazis because they know how much that would hurt any Jew.
Oh, yes.
Now, these young people who pick up these arguments, knowingly or otherwise, are repeating this slur on the Jewish people. And some of them will know how much that hurts the Jews and will not mind. Some of them may not know how much that hurts the Jewish people. Why do these so-called pro-Palestinian peoples keep saying that it's just like the Warsaw Ghetto in Gaza? Why choose the Warsaw Ghetto? Why not choose something not involving Jews?
Yeah, notice, comparing Gaza to the Warsaw Ghetto. He's making a good point here again. Why are you comparing it to that? There are all sorts of things you can compare it to. There's all sorts of things. Why are you picking that? Just because you know that's a really, really sensitive spot for Jews. And he talk about Hitler. But notice, I mean, it's ridiculous. You're talking, the millions of Jews were killed. They're tossed into ovens. They're gassed and so on. You're saying, Gaza's like that. So that's what you guys are doing to Gaza. Yeah. Stupid.
Not choose anything else from the history of the world. First of all, by the way, it's not a very good comparison, is it? Because when people managed to escape briefly from the Warsaw Ghetto, their first thing was not to run out and behead the first child they could find.
Yeah.
But park that for a moment. Why do they choose the Warsaw Ghetto? Because they want to hurt Jews. They want to hurt them as deeply as they can. Here's the other thing. If you have this great mistake of thinking that the whole world can be divided into Hitler and not Hitler, these kids, and kids they are going to discover, if they have their way, that they were Hitler. Why do I say that?
Ouch.
Because if their chant came true, and from the River Jordan to the Mediterranean Sea, Palestine, which is to say a state which is Judenrein, because Mahmoud Abbas, the head of the Palestinian Authority, as well as Hamas, who of course have been running, if you can call it at that, the Gaza for the last 13 years, since they killed the Palestinian Authority representatives in Gaza. Both Mahmoud Abbas, the head of the allegedly moderate PA, and Hamas both agree that Palestine must be Jew-free.
Everyone following this? He's saying all these stupid idiot students are screaming from the river to the sea, Palestine will be free. And you say, hey, what are you guys talking about? And they're saying, the Jews are basically the Nazis and Gaza is like the Warsaw Ghetto here. And so everything for us is Nazi or not Nazi. It's all Hitler or not Hitler. And we're saying that the Jews are Hitler and that the Palestinians are not Hitler. So, and then we say, okay, what are you actually saying? What are you actually advocating for? Oh yeah, wiping Israel off the map. Okay, so who are the Nazis here? That's you, dummy. That's you. You're the one who's arguing to exterminate Jews. You're the Nazis here. Are you stupid? Yeah. How stupid can you possibly be? Well,
not very smart.
Super, super, super smart.
Stupid.
Cheryl says, can we say anti-Semitic racists? Anti-Semitic is a badge of honor to them, but anti-Semitic racists may make their heads explode. So the point here is when you say anti-Semitic, it's no longer bothering them. So start saying anti-Semitic racists. And that might actually.
I often use Jew hater instead of anti-Semitic, which I think sounds like a harsher label.
Alhamdulillah, first time catching you live. Where have you been? Where have you been, Danny? Because we've been going live a lot for a long time.
Yeah.
Maybe he's in a different time zone. Some people usually don't catch us live because they might sleep at this time or something like that. Muhammad definitely sounded like Ali Dawah. Do the voice. Allah said, yo, because the eyes be the leather strap of the anus, yeah? And this is the proof. This be the proof that Islam is true. How could Muhammad have even known that? People back then didn't even know that the eyes be the leather strap of the anus But then NASA finally figured it out with the new telescope that showed up into space when it went past the 7 ozone layers. They went up and they discovered, did you know that the eyes are the leather strap of the anus? And us Muslims, we said, we've been knowing that for 14 centuries because our prophet said it, yeah? What are you laughing at? Hang on, just look. I'm just looking at the super chats here. So this is Zippy. The next one, Giovanni. Christians, all men are made equal in the eyes of God. Islam, hey guys, discrimination, it's cool. Also, the eyes are the leather strap of the anus. Jeff Durbla, do you think leather anus straps fix posture? Why did Muhammad have to say that? Why did he have to say that? Now we never get to hear the end of it ever.
Man.
You see, this is the lie of the apostate. They said Douglas Murray would be on the stream, but he's not. He's in a screen. Perish in your rage. Yeah. Die in your rage.
Die in your rage.
Yeah, you get the perish. If it's, I've noticed, like the Ali Dawa will say, die in your rage. And then Yasser Qadi, perish in your rage.
Perish in your rage.
Yeah. If you change the word, it sounds a bit more sophisticated. Zia53, thanks for the super chat. Got Danny again. By the way, learning so much from you and the gang to resist what has tempted me for a while. From an ex-occultist to a Christ lover, I'm proud to be a kafir. Yes.
Alhamdulillah.
Yes, these occultists do not boil a cat to get information from a demon.
Who says who? Says who?
Tatiana says, let's see. My BFF, who's a Muslim, was offended at a Quranic verse I sent her about Mo's sex slaves. It's easy to blast Muhammad here, but harder to do in person. D. Wood, how did you handle Nabil's hurt feelings? I feel awful. Well, Nabil's a pretty resilient guy, but he wasn't the hurt feelings kind of guy. And I mean, fortunately, we became friends pretty quickly. And it sounds like you're in that situation where you actually have someone who's a friend. And that helps because if you walk up to someone and you bring up, let's say, Muhammad and Aisha or something like that, if you don't know the person, the Muslim's going to interpret that as you're just a hater who hates people and you hate Muslims and you're bringing this up to hurt his feelings. Whereas if you actually, it never crossed my mind when Nabil's arguing against me and telling me I'm wrong. It never crosses my mind that he therefore hates me. So, okay, he obviously is telling me this because he's got my best interest in mind. He thinks I'm wrong, and the same was true in reverse. But there are better ways to bring about information than others. I deleted most of the stuff off my old channel, but you can still look up the video. How to share unpleasant facts with pleasant Muslims. You can get the exact same information across to someone if you're not trying to hurt that person's feelings. And at the end of the day, you can bring some of this stuff up. Say, hey, look, don't you that I'm not trying to hurt you. I'm not trying to be mean. I'm not trying to be evil here. I believe you've got a problem. And if you are my friend, then why wouldn't we be wrestling through this together as friends? Why wouldn't we sit down and say, hey, look, three possibilities here. Either one of us is right, the other's wrong. I mean, either I'm right and you're wrong, or you're right and I'm wrong, or we're both wrong. We can't both be right. So assuming one of us is right and the other is wrong, doesn't it make sense for us to sit down and try to figure this out together? And why would that be bad? Don't you understand that we're going to say things that the other disagrees with, and we shouldn't be getting upset about that? So anyway, you can lay some of the groundwork there, and check out that video if you get a chance.
Yeah, I had an incident once where I was in such a tough situation with a friend of mine until nothing. Just go on.
Until I found out that the eyes are the leather strap of the anus. I know what you're going to do, man. You can't help it.
No, I was actually gonna go for until somebody said, "I'm never gonna give you up, never gonna let you down."
What's wrong with you, man?
But I couldn't do it.
This is terrible. It's terrible. One, you had a terrible joke, and then you couldn't even pull off your terrible joke. Then you told us the terrible joke anyway. I don't know what to do with this, man. I don't even know why we're here. Why are we live? What are we doing?
Yeah.
No one says Jesus loves you. That's not true, because this is from no one. He says, no, Jesus loves you, AP. But no, lots of people say that Jesus loves AP.
Yeah.
GG here says, you two have the best facts. It's my opinion that David Wood has helped AP's emotional health on confronting these difficult issues. I've helped AP's emotional
Well, I don't need help. I don't need help from anybody.
Why are you stuttering then? I helped AP's stuttering.
Yeah.
From the Mississippi River to the Mediterranean, Sea, it will be ours. Yeah. That is interesting. Think, what basis are you saying, hey, from the river to the sea, this will all be ours? Like, on what basis? Because your prophet flew a magical flying donkey there at some point? Stupid.
From the Jordan River to the Dead Sea. Yeah.
What is the worldly religion of the Jew? Huckstering, what is his worldly god? Money. Karl Marx on the Jewish question. Marxists hate Jews. Matter of fact, I think this is the last thing in this clip that I have that Douglas Murray is going to bring up. No matter what the Jews do, people hate them for it. He brings it up. He's like, when they're stateless, they hate them for being stateless. When they have a state, they hate them for having a state. When they're rich, they hate them for being rich. When they're poor, they hate them for being poor. No matter what they do. And Loaves of Bread here says, Muslims are trying to stop Brits wearing poppies for Remembrance Day, 11/11. End of World War I might be a sore spot. Yeah. The collapse of the poor Ottoman Empire.
There is no scenario in the heads of the Palestinian Authority or of Hamas in which one Jew is allowed to live in the Palestinian state. So if from the river to the sea a Palestinian state is created, it will mean either the eradication of all Jews in Israel or the displacement of all Jews in Israel, which means carting out every Jew from their historic homeland and either killing them or sending them somewhere else. And that would be done in the name of being anti-Nazi. These people have a huge problem coming their way if they get their way.
Yeah.
They're ignorant as hell, and they will have to hope to God that they never get what they say they want.
Isn't that interesting? Like, these guys are saying, here's what we want from the river to the sea. And it's a bunch of stupid college students. Hey, we want them. What does that mean? It means Israel has to be wiped off the map. Oh, okay. Suppose you actually get your way. Which side were you on? The Nazi side or the non-Nazi side? And they would go down in history as the morons who wiped out the Jews like Hitler.
Yeah.
Well,
it's so funny that this is it's so simple, but these people don't even bother to think about it.
No.
Or they don't care.
No, it's just this is what a bunch of other groups are doing right now. So let me jump on the bandwagon.
Yeah.
Like, this is what's cool on campus right now. So I'm going to be cool on campus. What are you actually doing? Calling for genocide against Jews. And how are you making your point? I'm calling them Nazis. Oh, you guys are so smart. Tell us more. Why can't you run the world? Super smart people.
You know what? I'm also kind of under the impression lately that, I don't know, since October 7th, so much stuff emerged, so much horrible rhetoric emerged from the right and the left together. From the right, I mean from those conspiracy theorists and neo-Nazi types, and then so many on the left, overwhelmingly. Like, it's so funny. For such a long time, these leftists went around calling everyone Nazi, and then they turned out to be the first ones to immediately jump on the anti-Semitic bandwagon and to basically go full anti-Jewish.
Mm-hmm.
And
That is interesting, isn't it? Like, these are the guys. Everything I disagree with is Nazi.
Yeah.
And then, okay, what are you going to do? Hey, what are you going to do now? I have to help destroy Jews. Wait, what? No, awesome.
And the stuff that they say about Israel and about Zionism and about Jews, it just makes me think these people never really cared about Jews. On the contrary, they never really liked Jews. They never really wanted to like the Jews. That it just kind of they just kind of went with it because they thought this is the anti-authoritarian position to have. But they've always had this resentment or this hostility toward Jews or toward anything Jewish, and at the first opportunity now they're jumping up and showing that and shoving it in everyone's face. It's disgusting. I don't know.
Yep.
Troubling.
Yeah, what could go wrong with such brilliant and well-informed young people entering the workforce? Oh wait, they're not going to work.
Mm-hmm.
People are really obsessed with one certain issue that keeps coming up here. Not Satch says, what kind of straps do vegan Muslims use? Hemp, I believe.
Yeah.
So if you're a vegan, the eyes are the hemp strap of the anus. Just keep that in mind. Another one here, the leather strap will rule. You see, in order to correct ritual one, to have correct ritual, one must first widen their leather straps of their anus, and the demon will be pleased to tell you the truth of Islam. We got some. What? Why did we ever bring up that verse? We're going to need to actually have one day where we have a funeral for that verse, and we say, okay, we're kind of done with this now. Yeah.
Forever.
Giovanni says, you didn't read the message, D. Wood. You only explained it to AP. I will now convert to Islam because of this great insult. Alhamdulillah. Yeah, it's always good.
Good. Awesome.
And a Ghazian Ethiopian here says, you're right. Ethiopians giving asylum to Muslims was a mistake. Indeed, we paid a heavy price. But notice, I mean, back then, so Muhammad's in Mecca. He's preaching monotheism in Mecca and preaching, hey, people need to believe in Jesus, preaching that in Mecca. And then people hear about it. It's the same reason that the Jews were, they didn't regard him as a prophet, but they thought it was cool that he's preaching monotheism and so on. But that had an effect on Christians. That had an effect, according to Muslim sources, on people like Waraka. It had an effect on the Jews. Hey, there's this guy preaching monotheism here right in Arabia and around a bunch of pagans. What a great guy. Oh, wait, now he wants to slaughter us all and subjugate us all? No.
Yeah.
That's what false prophets, the point here, that's what false prophets do, ladies and gentlemen. A false prophet does not come to you and saying, hey, let me contradict everything you believe. A false prophet comes along and says, hey, I agree with you. Now support me.
Or else.
Die.
Oh.
Giovanni says, Douglas Murray seems to be the only intelligent person to have actually read up on Islam. It is weird. I mean, you see someone like Douglas Murray and it's like so commonsensical. Everything he's saying so clear, so indisputable. And you've got entire populations going in like the dumbest directions imaginable. Weird. This
is one of the things that has really struck me because the Israel-Palestine issue, we've had people on the show to talk about it, but it's honestly not something that I have really paid a huge amount of attention to. I say that with some regret now, but nonetheless. What has struck me is I don't understand the double standards that seem to apply to Israel. I'd never really paid attention to, and therefore I haven't, but I don't understand. I mean, we're talking now about proportionality.
Yeah, someone brought this up in the chat. Very, very... Let's destroy this. Yeah, let's watch this and let's destroy this. You know what he's talking about, right? This proportionality. Yeah. They killed 1,500 of your people, so you should kill 1,500 of their people, and then you're even Steven. And if you go beyond that, then you're being mean and you're being a genocidist.
Yeah. And Israel is the only state that is ever held to that standard by the entire world.
Yeah, no one else thinks like that. Muslims never thought like that. No one ever thinks like that unless it's Israel. And suddenly, nope, you're just if they kill a bunch of your people, then you get to sort of balance that out and set the balance right again. Then you have to stop. Well, let's talk about why that's stupid and insane.
Because on the other side, there are Muslims and they cry.
So let's see. It's good Constantine's bringing this up here.
And this is
They always do, as long as it involves Israel.
And I haven't understood what that means exactly, because
Nobody
I don't
does.
think Israel would want to go into Gaza and butcher innocent civilians in the way that Hamas did. And also, in a war, proportionality is moronic. You're trying to win.
Yeah, of course.
So why are people calling for proportionality?
Because they want Israel to lose. That's all. No, the international community always does this. There's, not much love lost across much of the world for Israel, for the same reasons as I described much of the Muslim world not having much love for Israel. Becomes the whipping boy, the scapegoat of the international community. The joke that the UN should have a football team. They would say, well, who would they play? Israel, obviously.
I missed that when I originally watched it. The UN should have a football team. Who should they play against? Israel. That's funny stuff.
There was a vote at the UN the other day, a few days ago, which simply called for one thing, which was the international condemnation of the Hamas massacres of the 7th of October. It didn't pass.
Wow. The UN couldn't even agree to condemn the October 7th massacre. Couldn't even agree on that. Didn't pass.
Didn't pass. The UN couldn't bring itself to vote to condemn the massacre of the 7th of October. And when it was announced in the hall that it hadn't passed, there was much whooping and clapping. Now, we've seen this before, of course. In 1975, there was a resolution at the United Nations.
Hang on. I don't know if he's coming back to the proportionality one here, but I wanted to make sure we covered the proportionality. So AP, you familiar with this? That, again, and we heard, they instantly started saying this. This is what came up on Piers Morgan repeatedly and so on. And a lot of what we hear is, hey, they killed 1,500 Israelis, but now 10,000 Gazans have been killed. So it's completely, it's not proportional. It's not proportional. And remember, this got brought up to Ben Shapiro when I think was it Piers Morgan who was saying, well, what is the proportional response? And Ben, I'm not trying to be proportionate here. I think it should be wildly disproportionate if you're responding to terrorists. But yeah, so guys, this is why this is insane, and everyone needs to be prepared to explain why this is stupid and idiotic and insane and inconsistent and is applied to no one in the entire history of warfare. So the claim is, again, Hamas killed 1,500 Jews in that attack. What should Israel do in response? Well, so the argument goes, we agree that Israel can respond, but it has to be proportionate. They killed 1,500 of yours, therefore you can go kill 1,500 of theirs. Even Steven. Then you're even. Then you just move on. Then you go on. You live life after that, right? So it's like when someone launches a horrible attack on you, it's like a balance has been thrown off. And so your goal in responding is to bring balance back. They killed 1,500 of yours, you kill 1,500 of theirs, and then everything is even Steven. That's like
just this enrages me. What he just mentioned. So it was an amendment at the United Nations on condemning the October 7th attack by Hamas, and also condemning the whole method of attacking civilians and taking hostages to then make demands and things like that. And it was rejected. And as far as I read, upon its rejection, the Israeli representative said that this just shows once again that the United Nations has lost any sense of relevance in the world.
Yeah, it sucks. Who wants to listen to that?
But then I mean, nations actually rejecting this, and then some even celebrating the rejection of this. And we're talking about an incident and an event of terrorists pouring into a country and directly targeting civilians and brutally shooting and killing them and burning them and so on. And this is not being condemned because Israel is on the receiving end, and Muslim terrorists are on the other end. They are the doers. Excuse me, but why in the world should Israel now respect anything at all? Why in the world should they now respect anything? If they didn't respect anything at all on the Gazan side, I would understand it at this point.
Yeah. And yeah, same thing with the UN. Like, why? I mean, they don't take them entirely seriously. They still understand that they're still, they still try to interact with the UN and so on. But I mean, notice, how would you not be okay if you guys can't condemn slaughtering men, women, and children in Israel? If you guys can't condemn that, don't talk. Just shut up. Just shut up. No one cares what you say anymore. Shut up. Not we're done with you, and just walk away. Walk away. So for everyone who doesn't understand the issue of the proportionality and stuff, because notice it appeals to people because it kind of makes sense. They did something, so you do something proportional in return. It's insane and stupid. I'll give you an example. I just looked up Pearl Harbor. The attack killed, so the Japanese bombed Pearl Harbor. The attack killed 2,403 U.S. personnel, including 68 civilians, and destroyed or damaged. They're targeting the fleet. They're targeting the U.S. fleet to try and cripple the United States before the war even starts, and therefore to demoralize the U.S. so that the U.S. doesn't want to fight, and hey, their ships have been destroyed. So including 68 civilians, and destroyed or damaged 19 U.S. Navy ships, including 8 battleships. So notice you want a proportionate response. Then what the U.S. should have done is said, okay, now we've got to go kill 2,403 Japanese people and blow up 19 of their ships, and then we're even, Steven. Then we're even. Then we're okay. Now notice there's a weird. If you're stupid and not thinking, you go, oh, okay, that makes sense. No, your goal as a military and as a government is not to even the scales out. Your goal is to make sure they can never do that to you again. That's your job as a military, as a government, is to make sure they can never destroy your ships again, that they can never launch that kind of attack again, or that they don't want to do it. And so you're trying to destroy their ability to do that to you again, and their will to do that to you again. That's what you're doing. And what happens? What happens? You fight them until they surrender, and you make conditions where they can't do that to you again. You fight them until they surrender, and you make the rules for them, and you make them agree to the rules that ensure that they are not going to do that to you again. It's the same. Pick a war. Pick a war. That's the goal. If you're fighting Germany, your goal is to go in there, crush Germany so that they can't do all this messed up stuff again. That's your goal. What is Israel's goal? If they get invaded and 1,500 of their people are slaughtered by terrorists, what is their goal? What is their job? What is the goal and job of the main goal and job of the military, of the government? What is your goal right now? Make sure they can never do that again. What are they looking for? Surrender. Surrender. Hand over the people who did this, or we'll hunt them down and kill them, get our hostages back, and make sure that they can never do that again. That's what you're looking for. And for some reason, in this war only, no. All you get to do is even out the scales. You can't crush them to make sure that they don't do that to you again. Absolutely idiotic and insane. Any thoughts on that, AP, before we wrap up? There's about 2 minutes left of the clip I have here.
No, I have a lot to say here, but I don't want to say.
Are you going to go on one of your AP rants?
No, not now. Not now.
Danny says, Murray is simply dropping bomb after bomb. Yeah, I noticed. Like, they bring up an issue, and he just somehow zeroes in on the most relevant point. Devastating critique demonstrating the utter incoherence of the pro-Palestine position. Indeed. It's college students thinking they're being anti-Nazi by acting like Nazis. It's insane. It's ridiculous and insane. Lucid here says, love D. Wood's impressions, but can he do one of AP? Of course. Hi, everybody, and welcome. This is the Apostate Prophet. I hope you're having a wonderful day.
Nice. You have to work on that more, though.
Yeah, I know. I'd have to practice that more. But I think I have the idea. I have the cadence down. I have to work get the intonation right and stuff.
Yeah.
Douglas to JP. This is funny. This is Douglas Murray responding to Jordan Peterson. How about no? I don't buy your pen pal.
Nice.
Fruit Punch Samurai says, can you explain taqiyya for Islam? Thank you. You want to take a crack at that, or should I?
No, I don't want to.
Taqiyya. Taqiyya. Yeah, so taqiyya is, Surah 3, verse 28 of the Quran, relevant verse there. But it's not, we've said it before, I've never seen such massive liars as like the Dawa guys and so on. Part of that is, I think that has more to do with them just thinking it's totally acceptable to deceive unbelievers and to even deceive Muslims if it's going to help them be in Islam. And there are other things where they would get that idea from. Taqiyya specifically is a couple of situations. If you're going to be persecuted for being a Muslim or for being from some particular sect of Islam, then you can say you're not a Muslim or you're not from that sect of Islam. You're allowed to lie in order to protect your life and so on. So that's one sort of situation. But Surah 328 is about not being friendly towards non-Muslims. And it says, unless you fear a danger from them. So there are these other situations that are also taqiyya that are, if you would be in danger by telling people what your real goal and your real agenda is, then lie to them about it, right? Because so if you're in an area and hey, it's us versus them, what should we do here? Well, if you're safe to say, hey, we can't stand you, we don't want to be friends with you, we don't like you, you stay over there, you're non-Muslims. If you can get away with that, then yeah. If it's in the best interest of the Muslim community for you to pretend to be friendly, then you can pretend to be friendly. Yeah. And Sunnis misrepresent this and say this is just a Shia doctrine because it was much more relevant for Shias along the way because they've typically been in a minority. And so they've had to use this in order to protect themselves from Sunnis for many centuries. But it's clear, that passage, Surah 3, verse 20, that's the Quran. Ibn Kathir's commentary on it, awesome. And he says, he quotes one of Muhammad's companions who says taqiyya is there till the day of resurrection. You'll still be using taqiyya, still be deceiving people until the day of resurrection. And then you had, he also quotes Muhammad's companion Abu ad-Darda, who says that we smile in the faces of some people, although our hearts curse them. So
beautiful.
So you want to destroy them, but you're not in a position. So we smile at you.
That's beautiful.
You're our friends. And so it's basically the same thing that's going on with anti-Israel Muslims uniting with college students or with leftists or with LGBTQ, any of these groups that they're uniting with on various issues. It's all deception. They're deceiving them about their agenda. And that's entirely justified. All right.
When it was announced in the hall that it hadn't passed, there was much whooping and clapping. Now, we've seen this before, of course. In 1975, there was a resolution at the United Nations in New York that Zionism is racism. One of those proposing this motion was Idi Amin. Fine, upstanding gentleman.
A good guy.
Yeah.
And again,
he's being sarcastic.
People watching who don't know who Idi Amin is, educate yourself. And the evening that the vote was put to the UN, a drinks reception was held at the United Nations for those voting that Zionism was racism. And who was hosting the drinks party? Kurt Waldheim. Again, people can look him up. Kurt Waldheim is the former Chancellor of Austria. he was a member of an SS battalion in World War II.
This guy's handing out drinks
So,
after a UN vote.
the United Nations has been here before, plenty of times. The United Nations can never bring itself to condemn anything unless it involves Israel. And that is a pathology of the United Nations. But we have seen all of this before, many, many times, too many times to count.
Oh, so yeah, this is the last part here. The interview goes on longer, and there's a link to the rest of it. And I mean, there's a link to the full thing in the description box. But now he's going into the part I mentioned where it doesn't matter what Jews do, people will hate them no matter what they do. They go up, they'll hate them for going up. They go down, they'll hate them for going down. They go left, they'll hate them for going left. They go right, they'll hate them for going right. He breaks this down pretty well here.
Ever since the foundation of the state. And that comes to one of the simple problems of, and I'm sorry, but we have to bring it up, anti-Semitism. Mm-hmm. One of the simple problems about anti-Semitism is, as everybody who knows about it knows, is that it's a shape-shifting virus. At one point in the history of Europe, in the history of our own country, the Jews were hated because they were poor, and then they were hated because they were rich. They were hated for not integrating, and then they were hated for integrating.
Yeah.
In the era where you could hate people for their religion, they were hated for their religion. Mm-hmm. Then when that became impossible in Europe, you couldn't hate people for their religion, they were hated for their race. Then at a particular point in Europe, we discovered we couldn't hate people for their race anymore. So what did we hate people for if they were Jewish? We hated them for being stateless. Then the Jewish people got a state, and they were hated for having a state. Now, you cannot tell me in this situation that there's a coincidence here. It is not a coincidence that every way you do it, it ends up like that.
Yeah, and so again, it keeps going, but yeah, brilliant.
Douglas Murray he has a brilliant way to put things into words that
He's got a way with words.
Yeah, that are on your mind, but that you might struggle with. He put it into the perfect words. That's basically what it is. I was recently reading on the history of the Spanish after during the reconquest of of the Spanish, of Spain, after it was under Muslim control for so long, or of Iberia as it's called, or Hispania, whatever you want to call it. And what's very I often say funny, but I don't mean funny. What's tragic, ironic, weird, but very typical about it is
we know what you mean by funny.
Yeah, so they spent a very long time fighting the Muslim rulers there, and trying to fight them back and take the land over for Christianity. They fight them and fight them and fight them and push them almost entirely out. They take the final place, which is Granada, and at the very southern part of Spain. And one of the agreements to conclude the fighting and to finally, kickstart the beginning of the United Spanish history at around 1492 is they make an agreement to put an end to the fighting, but they also agree to the condition of letting the remaining Moors, the Moroccan or the Berber Muslims, live there in peace and practice their religion freely. And they agree to this, and they see this as a compromise. They don't really want it, because they think we have to just get rid of this whole Muslim control and the remnants of it entirely, and make all of this once again Spanish Christian land. But they agree to it, to put an end to it. What they do is they say, okay, well, we agreed not to expel the Moors, not to expel the Muslims. But seemingly to make up for that, what they do instead is to expel all the Jews. In the very same year, 1492. They basically they leave the Muslims there. They expel all the Jews. They give them an ultimatum and say you conspired with them to turn them against us and to take control over us. We know it. Although the Jews experienced so many pogroms and so many threats under the Muslims themselves, but they end up then giving the Jews the option of converting to Islam, converting to Christianity, dying, or leaving. As a result of which, then lots of them known as the Sephardic Jews leave to North Africa or to Muslim lands or further east into Europe. But it's again just one of those situations. And by the way, only a decade later or so, they actually kick out the Moors too, or many of them. But it's just one of those instances where the Jews are just, they just have to take the, I don't know what the word for that is or the saying for that is, but they just have to take the blame. They just have to suffer for the struggle that these people have endured. And that's just, I think that has been repeated so much throughout history.
Indeed. Danny here says, proper demon ritual. 1 pen pal plus 1 wide leather strap equals Islam. Satan will confirm that. Sid Dave says, would the treatment of religious minorities in Iran, Pakistan, Egypt not be categorized as apartheid? Why does the West not sanction Islamic nations? And here's the thing. I mean, apartheid has a specific definition. I think a lot of what happens in Muslim countries with non-Muslims would be closer to it than what we find with between Israel and Gaza. But yeah, if you're going to say Israel isn't not with Israel and Gaza, but with Israel and its own Arab citizens, if you're going to call this apartheid in Israel, then yeah, tons of other stuff would count as apartheid. But the idea is kind of like the term Nazi or something like that. People should generally be careful about tossing around the term. But they don't. They toss it around with everything. And so, okay, if you're going to toss it around with everything, then yeah, would apply to a lot of Muslim nations and to the
everything I don't like is apartheid.
Yeah. Mr. L says, Hassan Nasrallah is expected to act within the next 24 hours against Israel. IDF, fasten your leather straps. I'm going in dry. Is he supposed to do something in the next 24 hours? That's the leader of Hezbollah.
Yeah, he's supposed to give a speech one more time because he called upon America to step in and to put an end to this thing, to do a ceasefire. Because they were expecting him last Friday to announce that they are going to war with Israel. He didn't do it. Of course, they would never do it. They're scared. So now they're expecting he could actually announce going to war or doing something, but it's probably just going to be a bunch of empty talk.
Hey, he's like, hey, Americans, put an end to this. And their response is,
how about no? I don't buy your Ella.
That's good.
This is something good. Peach Buns here says, if only Jordan Peterson knew half of what Murray knows. Yeah, wouldn't Jordan Peterson be an incredibly important voice on this issue if he would actually read a couple books on it and listen to some people who know what they're talking about on this issue and start saying relevant things? Like, he's always like, oh, I don't know about this. I don't know about this stuff. It's like, dude, you read like 75,000 books a year. Why can't you read a couple books on this and actually contribute on this particular issue?
It's so weird to me that he seems remarkably ignorant on this whole stuff when he should be talking about it, or when he talks about it, he should be informed on this stuff. But I don't know. I don't get it.
Yeah, that's what I mean. I understand people not being informed. I don't understand really smart people who are commenting on this and saying things like, get a pen pal and stuff. Like, what? Why wouldn't you get it? It's not a ton of work, especially given your brain power to figure this stuff out. Why are you not doing it?
Yeah.
Weird stuff. Joshua here says, hey-o, thanks for existing. Good night. Yes, you're welcome.
Thanks. Thanks.
Sid says, Muslims kidnap Christian girls in Egypt and Hindu girls in Pakistan and force them to convert, and no justice is provided. Imagine that. So evil. Yeah, imagine if Israel was doing some of the stuff that happens in these other countries, going in and just seizing Muslim girls, forcibly deconverting them, marrying them, and so on. These things go on in Pakistan. Imagine that. Muhammad said, you rub the lotion on its skin, or you get the jihad again. Oh wait, that was a different guy in that. That was, what is it, Buffalo Bill or something like that. I saw that when I was a kid. It rubs the lotion on its skin. I forget. That was a long time ago. You don't even know what we're talking about, do you? Silence of the Lambs. It won like 1 trillion Oscars, man, when I was a kid. From the rivers to the sea, Islam's not for me. Oh, and we got the little music there. So yeah, we'll have the music here in a second.
Inshallah.
Genocide is not just about numbers. Oh, they're quoting that other comment I mentioned. Genocide is not just about numbers. It's about intentions. Too bad either. If one is going to make that claim, they must admit Muslims are genocidal. So yeah, if it's just about intentions, then what are the intentions with Israel? Genocide, right? So notice you could say the Palestinians are committing genocide against Israel. You say, what? They're not killing all of it. Yeah. Well, if it's about their intentions, that's their intentions. So it's genocide, right? And you could say that all of the college student protesters and so on, if it's about their intentions, then if they're saying from the river to the sea, Palestine will be free, their intentions are genocidal. So thank you. That is correct.
Alhamdulillah.
But what if the
plus both of the authorities, the Palestinian Authority and Hamas, both explicitly said in one way or another that they intend to exterminate the Jews in the end. So it's pretty clear. If you want to really go for that, there you have it.
Here we have, but what if the anus is actually the leather strap of the eyes? Stop misrepresenting or confusing Muhammad's words.
Yeah, he said it perfectly.
David the Goliath says, real problem is Islamists infiltrating leftist parties all over the world and using leftist ecosystem to push their agenda. Are leftists really stupid to not see through this? Yes, they need to wake up. Yes, they do. And yes, they are really this stupid. I mean, guys, it was just a couple months ago where leftists were flipping out. What? They're not supporting Pride Month? They're not doing that? What? We've been betrayed. And you had all these Muslims out there running, trying to form alliances with the people on the right and with the conservative commentators and so on. That should have been a big wake-up call. Then you got the Hamas attack, and nope. Now we need the leftists again. Hey, we're on your side, LGBTQ.
Hey, guys.
And they're like, yay, they're on our side again, while we need to unite in attacking Israel. Like,
hey, guys, goodness. Long time no see.
Yeah, we were just kidding about, not supporting Pride Month. Leftist. Racism is bad. Also the left. Nein, Juden.
It's Juden.
well, it what is N-I-E-N?
It's a
misspelling too, right? And it should be kind, right? Should be kind of Juden. Would that be correct?
Yeah, kind of Juden.
Ah, see,
yeah,
so I do speak perfect Deutsch.
Yeah.
Yeah. Rob White says, I saw a video of a Gazan residents leaving the Gaza Strip with white flags. Maybe they are going from the river to the sea to be free while Hamas is smashed by Israel. Yeah, I thought I saw a bunch of people, like a line of people fleeing and so on. And that's what should happen. But yes, guys, the solution...
There was some news that the IDF is helping, or some Israeli authorities are helping lead like a large crowd of Gazans go southward, and there's video footage of that while protecting them from Hamas. There is footage like that going around. It's very interesting. Looks like genocide, right?
But yes, guys, there's something that's supposed to happen here. Hamas is supposed to surrender.
Yeah.
You're losing. You can't win. You're supposed to surrender. That's what happens. That's what's supposed to happen here. Instead, the entire rest of the world props them up to kind of keep them going and so on, so that they don't surrender, so that you can never deal with the situation.
Mm-hmm.
Preshi Presh says, D. Wood, what is a Christian view of Judaism? Do you believe Judaism was canceled by Jesus, or it no longer needs to exist and simply become Christian? So why did God start Judaism only to cancel it later? Well, you have in the Bible, you have a series of covenants. You have God's covenant with Noah and so on. You have a covenant with Abraham. You have a covenant with the children of Israel. And then Moses is there. Then you're also told in the Old Testament that a new covenant is coming. It often gets overlooked when the Apostle Paul and the apostles are going out and preaching that Jesus is Lord. They don't think they're starting another religion, right? This is the Messiah. This is the Messiah of our religion. Our religion teaches this is the Messiah. So Messianic Jews, people like Michael Brown and so on, they don't believe they have some different religion from the one that was taught by the prophets and so on. They believe that Jesus is the fulfillment, and so they would tend to look at Jews as just they haven't accepted the Messiah yet. They've got some false beliefs about the Messiah and so on. So yeah, it's not something that's like Judaism and then canceling it or something. It's according to Christianity, Jesus is the fulfillment of these things. Hey, can I share some vids by Tick History with you all? I don't know.
No.
What's Tick History. What is Tick History? Do you know what that
I
is?
have no idea.
Yeah, I
never
don't
heard
know.
of it.
Yeah, I would say no. I mean, in theory, you could send us anything, but that sounds suspiciously like something I would not watch.
Yeah. Immediately, my radar is governed, and it's like, no, I don't want to see that.
Now that could change. If I heard from like 80 people, oh man, Tick History is so awesome, then I'd be like, oh, okay, let me check it out. But if it's like the first time I've ever heard of something, I'm like, there's a reason I've never heard of this before. It probably sucks. I could be wrong about it, but I don't know. Unless Tick History is something new.
There's a reason why there's a capital punishment.
'Tis what you call having your soul sold, Islam. Mm-hmm. Rob White here. Peace through strength, as our president, Donald J. Trump, said. That is one problem that's been going on for a long time in the West, is they don't understand that they're dealing with people who only respond to being crushed if necessary, right? But they only respond to someone who can kind of dominate them. And so on. And somehow we've absorbed the idea that if you're fighting a war, you're not supposed to win. And what's the result? Well, you take a place like Afghanistan and you just stay there for decades and you leave and you accomplish nothing. Because you don't want to
lose, of course.
Yeah, you don't want to actually do what's necessary to crush the people you're trying to crush. You don't want to do it because it would be mean. It would be mean.
Don't win. You're supposed to lose.
Sid Dave here says, David Wood, I'm an atheist. We know, you've told us like 900 times, Sid. But you have done an amazing job to expose Islam. I have literally learned so much from you on how vile this ideology is. And that's kind of the point. And, Christians, atheists, Jews, even minority sects of Islam, Hindus, we're all kind of on the same side of this issue. Namely, we're all targets in various ways. Some are worse. Some are in more danger than others, depending on who you are. But yeah, we can all be united on this, whatever else we may disagree on. Monotheist, polytheist, atheist, whatever else we may disagree on. Something we can disagree on. We do not want to be controlled by this. What are you laughing at, AP? I know you're laughing at something. What is wrong with you?
I don't know. Whenever you say when you say minority sects, it sounds like you're saying minority sex.
Only to people who are absolute perverted atheists like you and Sid Dave. Did he say sects? Did he say sex?
And I was just trying to think.
He said sex between minorities.
And I was trying to think what minority sex would be referring to. Anyway.
I saw a video of this Bo Burnham guy once. You ever heard of Bo Burnham?
Yes, I have.
He was young. When he was young, he would do all these rap songs and stuff. And he started this play on words with sects and sects.
Uh-huh.
And he says, and I'm talking about a religious sect, like a Mormon sect that won't allow you to have sex of people of different sex, but you can't have sex. You can't have sex with members of the same sex, of the same sex. So he just this massive play on words with sex and sects.
Yeah. But that's the guy who did this special during the whole COVID thing. They did this interesting special where he was just in a room recording bunch of songs.
Yeah,
Joe.
he's his brain is turbocharged in one area. He is a legitimate genius type.
Mm-hmm.
Alpha Channel says, old Spanish saying for kids when they passed wind, as we would read in the Muslim sources, don't blink, you don't have enough hide. Spaniards mocking Muhammad's anal sayings to obscurity. Yeah, that's good. We're going to need to mock those sayings into obscurity. Rob White says, what is the significance of IDF using a Humvee type truck to shoot sewage at Hamas? I don't know. I'm not familiar with it. You know about that?
Nope.
Yeah, me neither. We'd have to see.
Hamas.
Grace here says, what do you think is more likely to be true, Islam or Richard Carrier's version of Jesus mythicism, where Christianity was inspired by visions of an angel named Jesus being crucified by sky demons? Yeah, that's pretty even matchup there. As silly as a lot of stuff in Islam is. Yeah, so Richard Carrier doesn't believe that Jesus was an actual person. So he's a Jesus mythicist. But there are all these passages that scholars grant are very early and were actually come from the followers of Jesus. And so what do you do about these passages? And he said, well, they're not thinking about an actual person. They're thinking about some spiritual realm and where Jesus is doing these things and so on. And so, pretty.
I feel like Jesus mythicism is a very easy way to completely discredit yourself.
Yeah, I think so too. I miss Nabil Qureshi and Acts 15 Apologetics. What is Acts 15 Apologetics?
In a parallel universe, that's what you were doing. Yeah.
From Yuri, and Yuri says the pupils. The pupils are the cow skin of the sphincter. That could be an alternate translation.
Nice.
Giovanni, shut up! I'm not German. Islamophobes. Oh, for misspelling 9, I think.
Oh yeah.
Well, that and not using kind.
Yeah. We will never forget.
For last night's stream from Nintendo to PC, AP's PlayStation is for free. You should do that. We'll just chip in for a PlayStation and then have a giveaway just so we can say free PlayStation, free PlayStation.
Free PlayStation. That's so stupid.
Thank you for all the hard work. But he's got the little motto we can make videos of. Sid Dave says Western textbooks should teach about trans-Saharan slave trade so that BLM and many other groups know the true history. There are no survivors of that trade. Yeah, it's a lot of the stuff that we would want people to know. The concern would be, like, if you just let, like, me and AP and Robert Spencer control the curriculum, I think it would help a lot of people if we actually were able to put some information in there, but we'd be considered biased and anti-Islam and stuff like that. The point is, you could tell history about things like that and about the history of Muhammad and his wives and his interactions with the Jews. You don't have to have one word of criticism in any of that. You could just state, you could just state that, and it would actually change the world. Guess what? Even if you did that, said we're just putting in this factual information from Muslim sources and from historical sources, we're just putting that information in, giving it to students. No, it would be groups like CARE shouting from the rooftops that you're racist, Islamophobic, hate-mongering bigots, even if everything was factual. Because the real agenda is you can't know about Islam, except the information they want you to have.
I would say I don't know. I wouldn't be against the idea of putting people in some re-education camps and forcibly teaching them about the trans-Saharan slave trade.
Mm-hmm.
It could be helpful.
Yeah. So AP is going to run the camps, the re-education camps.
Yeah.
We agree to that. I've said for years that they should have some sort of program like when you're dealing with terrorists and so on. You catch a terrorist or something, you're going to lock them up. My goodness, what do you have against exposing that guy to all the reasons he should not take Islam seriously? Like, what is your problem? Oh, they'll be Islamophobic. Yeah. This guy's literally he believes that his religion orders him to kill people. You think it's wrong and immoral to tell him not to follow his religion?
Of course.
Bunch of morons, man. Bunch of morons. Tick history is factual look at Marxists and Nazis' early collaboration in Weimar. Okay, yeah, I didn't know that. Oh, yep, I'm getting some responses on people explaining tick history. Tick history has good videos. Okay, no, that is interesting though. So we are getting some feedback on tick history, breaking some stuff down.
Yeah, I wouldn't get too much caught in the whole idea of making the whole Nazi Marxism connection, because the issue is the Nazi project, Hitler's National Socialism project, was he was very much inspired by socialism in the beginnings, and he wanted to appeal to the working class by using socialism, and wanted to incorporate some of the ideas. But then National Socialism turned out to be a very non-socialist system, especially in terms of, for example, where the Nazis basically worked together with these business moguls, with these giant corporations, to then make them dominant over parts of society. Instead of seizing the means of production as a state, they would just give it over to the corporations, and that is not socialism.
Yeah.
And Hitler had a very big problem with Marxism, and he started this whole. He didn't start it, but he bought into this whole idea, this whole conspiracy that Marxism is this giant Jewish project by which they're trying to take down the European, pure white Aryan nations, and that Marxism is basically a Jewish poison by which the Europeans will die unless the Nazis stop them, or dumb stuff like that. And he goes very much in depth, in a very insane way, into that in Mein Kampf. So yeah, trying to go down that path might not be very successful.
I think I will check out tick history though.
Me too.
Hey AP, minority sex. Look, he's still laughing like a little kid. It's even spelled for you, so you know what everyone's saying, and you're still laughing like a little kid. He said a word that sounds like sex. So naughty. Is anyone looking? I
totally forgot about that. I just remembered that. I completely forgot about that in the last minutes.
Sid Dave says, does the Quran only forbid wine and not whiskey? Well, it doesn't mention whiskey, but yeah, generally thought to be intoxicants. But there is that prophecy of Muhammad that said in order to avoid Islamic condemnations of alcohol, they'll just call it other things. So you can call it, hey, I'm not breaking the restriction. I'm drinking champagne. I drink the champagne. Bottle Filipino 1961. All right, everyone. I hope everyone was liked that Douglas Murray clip as much as we did, because that was awesome stuff. And I was like, amazing. Yeah, I've watched short clips, but yeah, going through the entire clip, man, that guy's sharp. So again, I would encourage everyone to check out that full interview on Triggernometry. Cool stuff. And I think we're going to be hearing a lot more from Douglas Murray, since it's an important time for relevant voices. I hope everyone gets him on their podcasts and lets them keep making those same points. Hopefully, some students actually pay attention and learn more than one thing from all of history.
Yeah, I personally follow Triggernometry closely. I like their channel, and I like what they're doing, so I would recommend going and following their channel as well.
Yeah, I'm liking it.
It's very beneficial. Douglas Murray is amazing. He's a genius. That's what I want to say on my part about that.
Yep. Sid Dave says, David Wood, do you think that Muslims can really ever change and be forced to secularize? It seems like a lost cause, but may be appeal to their humanity. No, Muslims can secularize. Muslims can change. Muslims can have different views and so on. The problem is, just personality-wise, notice what is a Muslim? As a Muslim who, it's supposed to be someone who submits to Islam. So there will always be this force within the community saying, guys, look, we're all being secular here, but look what our prophet said. And those people just have an impact, right? These are the Dawah guys. Hey guys, what are we doing here? What are we doing here? We have a mission from Allah. And so you could have tons and tons and tons of perfectly nice Muslims. You could have tons of Muslim friends and so on. You can have Muslims that you can get along with. There's always going to be issues that arise because the religion calls for the violent subjugation of the entire world. And I don't know how you get an entire population that would not take their sources seriously on these issues.
Yeah. I don't know why some people here are trolling this whole anti-Jewish stuff. Scored X said Karl Marx is a Jew. I don't know if you're trying to worship Karl Marx. The guy's dead, but he was actually not a Jew. He wasn't a Jew. So
And
just
screw Karl Marx.
yes.
Good, say that there. Good, put
Yes.
that there. And last super
He's even
chat here.
accused of being anti-Semitic because he wrote some bad stuff about Jews. And by the way, the Soviet Union was not very different at some point in their persecution of Jews, especially under Stalin. They were actually not quite different, and they didn't have very big disagreements in terms of the Nazi persecution of Jews. And in the Soviet Union, they called them something different. They used what was that? Cosmopolitan something, rootless cosmopolitan. I think is that what the term is? I forgot, but they would use this term for Jews to accuse them of being these rootless, stateless, parasitic people who just want to suck the blood out of the glorious Soviet Union. So you might be an anti-Jewish guy who blamed it on the communists, but they were also Jew haters at one point.
That's very similar to what was being said in Germany. They were saying, hey, they're parasitic, right? They're not their own thing. They're basically parasitic on the rest. And a lot of these criticism had to do with Jews not having their own state. Right? It's you're parasitic on other people's states. That's what Douglas Murray was pointing out. It's like when you're in other people's states, you're parasites in this state, and then if you get your own state, well, now you're evil because you have a state. So either way, you're bad.
If you want to buy into this whole conspiracy theory that communism was a Jewish project, look into the term rootless cosmopolitan. It is historically known as a Soviet anti-Jewish slur to accuse them of some deep conspiracy. They were thinking the very same thing.
Hey, question from Giovanni here. Hey, AP, you're a minority. Do you have minority sects in that country?
No, I don't. Why did I say anything?
I don't know. All right, ladies and gentlemen. So notice there are various problems here that are going on that have to do with generally ignorance, right? Young people today, ignorant. Even the people who are aligning with Dawa guys on various issues, it's usually because of ignorance. They do not understand what the final goals of the Dawa guys are for their populations and so on. So one, you got this problem of ignorance. But the other issue is, of course, Islam. Got to deal with Islam. And so, let's see, one last comment here. Said Dave, why are Jews treated like an ethnic group when they are just a religion? Is it because of European and racial theory? Well, no, Jews would be simultaneous. I mean, you can be a convert to Judaism and so on, but I mean, generally Jews are an ethnic group as well. So it's a combination. In other words, you can be an atheist Jew. You can be an atheist Jew where Jewish is your bloodline and so on, even if you don't believe. So it can have a kind of dual meaning. All right. So again, we've got to pay attention to what Islam teaches. And guys, these situations that happen in the world, very, very tragic frequently. But if the problem is Islam, then focus on dealing with the problem and using these opportunities to expose the most obvious false prophet in history. And so we can always announce,
ain't gonna follow no child molester, sex offender, prophet pretender. Ain't gonna follow no child molester.
Islam's not for me. Islam's not for me.
Islam.